Chapter 263. When Su Yinqian heard the first sentence she said in the video, she knew that something bad was going to happen. Many thoughts flashed through her mind. Her godfather must have asked someone to film this CD, and the purpose was to put her to death. Damn it, she didn't pay more attention at that time. Now that the truth was exposed, what should she do? From the beginning to the end, she had been thinking about this problem. Her heart was anxious, but she still had a very calm expression on her face, as if she was in a trance. Bang! The old madam slammed the table and said angrily, "Huilan, you've seen the contents of the CD. What else do you have to say?" Mrs. Su couldn't believe her eyes. Her daughter was kidnapped on purpose? Deliberately pretending to be crazy? This was simply an Oriental night. Auntie, I don't believe it. This CD must be forged by someone else. Yinqian wouldn't do such a thing. Okay, since you think the CD is fake, then we'll find someone who knows the technology to analyze it and see if it's fake. The old madam immediately called the police chief and asked him to arrange a technician to help verify the authenticity of the CD. The technician said that it would take a day to analyze it, and then took the CD away. The old madam glared at Su Yinqian angrily. Su Yinqian acted as if nothing had happened and smiled innocently. "Grandma, what's wrong? Who made you angry?" "Su Yinqian, don't pretend anymore." Old madam was so angry at her innocent smile that she vomited blood. She wanted to tear her face apart. "Mommy, I'm scared. Why is Grandma so fierce?" Su Yinqian buried her head in Mrs. Su's arms and trembled. Mrs. Su gritted her teeth and said, "Auntie, the matter hasn't been investigated yet. Don't you think it's a bit too much to accuse Yinqian rashly?" The old madam was so angry that her chest rose and fell rapidly. Bai Jinxiu quickly patted her back and whispered, "Mom, calm down. All right, then we'll wait for the police to confirm that the disc is real before we discuss this matter. At that time, you must give us an explanation." The old madam angrily threw down these words and walked away with the help of her walking stick. Bai Jinxiu glanced at Su Yinqian with a complicated expression and hurriedly left with the old madam. After they left, Mrs. Su Yinqian was stunned for a long time. Then, she turned to look at Su Yinqian, who was hugging her arm, and asked slowly, "Yinqian, is what was recorded in the CD true? Are you really lying to us?" Su Yinqian tilted her head, looking innocent. "Mommy, what are you talking about? I don't understand. In the video we just watched, you were talking to a man in black. You said that you were pretending to be kidnapped and mentally ill. Is that true?" Mrs. Su grabbed Su Yinqian's wrist nervously and asked in a trembling voice. Su Yinqian looked pained. "Mommy, you're hurting me." Mrs. Su loosened her grip. "Yinqian, tell me, is it true?" Su Yinqian pointed at the TV. "Are you talking about the two people in the TV just now? I don't know them at all." Mrs. Su looked at her seriously. Her daughter had a puzzled expression on her face. Her beautiful eyes were clear and pure. Mrs. Su stared at her for a moment, unable to believe that her daughter would lie. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Su Yinqian carefully tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Are you angry with me?" Mrs. Su's eyes reddened and she held back her tears. "No, Mommy isn't angry." She hugged Su Yinqian tightly and whispered, "My daughter, you're already so pitiful. Why would someone want to harm you?" "Mommy, don't be like this. I'm so scared." Su Yinqian's voice sounded so pitiful and delicate. Mrs. Su's heart was about to break. She patted her back. "Baby, don't be afraid. Mommy's here. Mommy won't let anyone hurt you." Mrs. Su returned to the old mansion in a huff. She felt so sullen that she didn't even want to eat dinner. She sat in her room and sulked. She sat beside the old master's wheelchair and held his hand. She was indignant. "Old man, that's Su Yinqian, why is she so evil? I'm so angry." Mr. Su listened to her complaints in silence. His old eyes were cloudy and there wasn't a trace of life in them. After complaining for a while, Mrs. Su began to feel sad again. She sighed deeply. "Back then, I thought that Xiaodong wasn't good enough and kept stopping her from being with Ahan. Instead, I tried to matchmake Ahan and Su Yinqian. In the end, it turned out that I was really blind and fell for an ingrate. Old man, I feel so bad. When I think about how Xiaodong suffered back then, I feel so guilty." As she spoke, Tears fell from Mrs. Su's eyes. She choked and said, "Now that she has that kind of illness, I don't know if she can make it. Tell me, why is this child's life so hard?" Mr. Su didn't say anything. He suddenly reached out his hand and slowly placed it on the back of Mrs. Su's hand. He pressed it gently. Mrs. Su turned her gaze and looked at their overlapping hands. His hand was like a withered tree's bark. It was covered with wrinkles and perfectly covered her hand. Mrs. Su's tears fell like rain. She hugged him tightly. "Old man, you still want to shelter me from the wind and rain, right?" When they were young, Mr. Su would always place his hand on the back of her hand whenever they were in trouble. Their fingers would interlock and he would say, "Don't be afraid. I'll shelter you from the wind and rain." These words had accompanied her for a whole 65 years until Mr. Su fell ill and couldn't express himself anymore. He couldn't recognize them anymore. The old master let out a muffled sound from his throat, as if he was agreeing with what she said. Mrs. Su trembled and rubbed her face against his. She choked and said, "Old man, if there's an afterlife, let's be husband and wife again. When that time comes, it'll be my turn to shelter you from the wind and rain." Although Mr. Su's eyes were still dull, the corners of his lips slowly curled up. After venting her emotions, Mrs. Su felt much better. She wiped her tears and changed into a new set of clothes. She patted the back of Mr. Su's hand and said, "Let's go downstairs and eat. I don't want my son and daughter-in-law to worry." The butler had been waiting at the door for a long time. When he saw Mrs. Su open the door, he hurriedly said, "Mrs. Su, you should eat something. Don't starve yourself." Mrs. Su nodded. "Butler, help me push Mr. Su downstairs." The family was waiting in the dining room. When they saw Mrs. Su and the others coming downstairs, they immediately smiled. Bailey Jing came up and hugged Mrs. Su's arm. She said, "Grandma, I made your favorite Westlake vinegar fish today." Mrs. Su smiled and said, "Xiao Jing, are you used to working in your brother's company?" Bailey Jing looked bitter. "Grandma, can we not talk about such a heavy topic when we're eating?" Bailey Xiong laughed. "Child, didn't you just boast that you've mastered the work and know how to operate it? Isn't that to make Daddy and Mommy happy? How would I dare to make Grandma happy? Grandma, don't you think so?" Bailey Jing helped Mrs. Su to sit at the head of the table and acted coquettishly. Mrs. Su tapped her forehead with her finger. "You little monkey, if you don't understand something, you should ask your father. Don't cause any trouble. Otherwise, let's see how your brother will deal with you when he comes back." I know. Grandma, Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao are still watching. You have to leave me some dignity as an elder." Bailey Jing scooped a bowl of soup and placed it in front of Mrs. Su. Mrs. Su smiled and shook her head. "You're too nosy." With Bailey Jing's jesting, the atmosphere at the dining table became much livelier. After the meal, Mrs. Su asked someone to push old Master Gu to the garden outside for a walk while she went upstairs to rest. After sitting on the sofa for a while, someone knocked on the door. It was Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao. Mrs. Su smiled and waved her hand. "Come over and sit next to Great-Grandma." Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao sat on either side of Mrs. Su with mysterious smiles on their faces. Mrs. Su stroked their heads and said gently, "Xiao Bao, is something the matter?" Xiao Bao winked at Xiao Yi. "You're the eldest. You tell them." Xiao Yi sighed maturely. "Eldest is always bullied." Xiao Bao made a funny face and looked extremely cute. Mrs. Su was amused by them and couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Yi said, "Great-Grandma, we heard that you and Grandma watched a video and knew that Su Yinqian is a bad woman. However, we don't have enough evidence and can't accuse her. We have something to give you." As he spoke, he took out a recording pen from his pocket and placed it in Mrs. Su's hand. "Great-Grandma, there's a conversation recorded in here. After you listen to it, you'll understand that what was recorded in the CD is true." Chapter 264. After Mrs. Su left, Su Yinqian frowned and paced back and forth in the ward, trying to think of a way to solve the crisis in front of her. She clenched her slender fingers tightly. Suddenly, her eyes turned cold. She walked quickly to the phone and dialed her godfather's number. 2 minutes later, her godfather called back. Su Yinqian suppressed her anger. "Shengguaneo, you bastard. Why did you secretly film me and mail the video to the Bailey's family? Her godfather was silent for a moment. It wasn't me. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? Su Yinqian was about to go crazy. I did secretly film you, but I didn't send it to the Bailey's family. Her godfather paused and continued. Our plan failed. My men were all killed in Rome. It must be Mikakito's doing. It really wasn't you. I'm sure. Mikakito is now looking for my whereabouts. I'm a victim, just like you. Su Yunqian's eyes were filled with deep hatred. Mikakito, you win. After hanging up the phone, she leaned back on the sofa and stared at the ceiling. After thinking for a long time, she reached out and picked up the phone. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. She angrily hung up the phone. After 2 minutes, she persistently dialed a string of numbers again. After a while, a man's half-awake voice came from the phone. He said in English, "Hello, who is this?" Su Yinqian took a deep breath and softened her voice. "Darling, it's me." On the other end of the phone, the man seemed to wake up a little. "Honey, what's wrong? It's early in the morning here." "I know. I'm sorry to wake you up from your sleep, but I've been cornered." "Darling, you must help me," Su Yinqian said softly. "What happened?" "Godfather secretly recorded our conversation. I don't know how Mikakito got a hold of it. She made it into a CD and gave it to the Bailey's family. Now the Bailey's family is questioning me. Darling, I don't know what to do." Su Yunqian's weak and helpless voice was transmitted to the man's ears through the microphone. The man frowned. "Don't worry. Only the Bailey's family knows about this. You just need to prove to them that the evidence was forged. Then, you can delay them for a while. At the same time, you can destroy the evidence in Mikakito's hands." Su Yinqian replied softly. "The CD has been sent to the technical department of the police station for technical evaluation. Can you send someone to replace it?" The man said in a deep voice, "The police station is not that easy to break into. Darling, please help me. I'm begging you." Su Yinqian's voice was weak. The way she called him darling was enough to make one's bones go soft. The man was silent for a moment before he said, "I'll send someone to do it. As for the evidence left behind by Mikakito, I'll also arrange for the best hackers to destroy it." "Darling, thank you," Su Yinqian said softly. She did not know that the 2 calls she made had been eavesdropped on by Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao through the wiretap. They had also recorded the conversation. This evil woman, she's already at the end of her rope and she's still trying to play tricks. Xiao Bao clenched his fists and his little face was filled with anger. We can't let her have her way. Little Wingzi rubbed his chin with a serious expression on his face. Who's the darling behind her? Why don't we hand this matter over to Uncle Shin and ask him to help us dig out the person behind this bad woman? Aren't they going to sneak into the police station? Then we'll let Uncle Shin wait for them. Xiao Bao's pink lips curled up. They immediately sent the 2 recordings to Mikakito. After Mikakito received the recordings, he frowned slightly. His slender fingers tapped lightly on the sofa. If the man behind Su Yinqian wanted to destroy the evidence in his hands, the best way would be to hack into the computer. His eyes suddenly narrowed. "Jiang Dao. Boss." Jiang Dao strode to his side. "Edit Su Yunqian's video and the 2 recordings sent by Xiao Bao together, and save them on a portable hard drive. If there's a hacker attack, deliberately leave a loophole for the other party to hack into, then trace the other party's information." "Yes." Jiang Dao received the order, and immediately began to deploy the plan to catch a turtle in a jar. Mikakito suddenly turned his head and looked at Suzaku. "Take a few people with you to monitor the police station. Be careful, don't leave anyone alive." He wanted to see who was behind Su Yinqian. The night was getting darker. A figure appeared in front of the police station's command building. He was wearing black tights and a silver mask on his face. His deep eyes flashed sharply as he fixed his gaze on the building in front of him. He pulled his hands at his waist, and a pair of hang gliders suddenly appeared on his back. He pressed a button at his waist, and the hang gliders brought him up slowly toward the top floor of the building. Under the moonlight, he looked like a big black bird as he slowly landed on the top floor. He retracted the hang gliders and leaped toward the door at the top of the building. After passing through the door, he could directly enter the police station. As far as he knew, the technical department was on the 12th floor. However, before entering the corridor, he took off his tights. It turned out that he was wearing a police uniform underneath. Then he took off the mask on his face. Under the moonlight, a handsome Asian face was revealed. He casually stuffed the mask into the clothes covering his chest, and then hid the tights in a corner. After doing all this, he put on the earpiece and said in Italian, "I'm going in." The person who responded to him also spoke in Italian. "No problem, I'm ready. Be careful, Thunder." Thunder grunted in a low voice, "Okay." Just as he finished speaking, all the surveillance cameras in the building went black. The policeman on duty in the monitoring room patted the machine in confusion, thinking that the machine had malfunctioned. He restarted the machine, but it still didn't go back to normal. The policeman on duty picked up the phone and called his colleague in the technical department to help check it out. The moment the surveillance cameras went black, Thunder had already rushed to the technical department like a ghost. When the person on duty received a call from the monitoring room and walked out of the office, he immediately sneaked in quietly. There were all kinds of evidence in the technical department. Thunder used his gloved hands to search around. Finally, he found a CD in a drawer. The CD had a label Su Yinqian on it. He immediately took out the fake CD hidden in his arms, tore off the label, stuck it on the fake CD, and put it back in the drawer. Then, he put the real CD in his arms and hurried out of the technical department's office. Just as he took 2 steps, a voice suddenly came from behind him. "Who are you? It's so late. Why haven't you gotten off work yet?" Thunder pressed the brim of his hat down and turned around. He saw the staff on duty in the technical department. He smiled and said, "I'm a new intern. The leader gave me a task and asked me to work overtime to complete it." The staff on duty didn't suspect him and smiled. "Then you go ahead and go home early when you're done." Thunder smiled. "Okay." The staff on duty nodded, opened the office door and walked in. Thunder pressed the brim of his hat even lower, almost covering his entire face. He lowered his head and walked back to the rooftop. He put on his tights on the rooftop and used his hang glider to fly down. He landed steadily behind the building. A black Land Rover was waiting for him behind the building. He quickly got into the car. The driver was a handsome foreign man. He turned to look at Thunder and asked, "Thunder, did you succeed?" Thunder smiled. "I almost gave myself away. Luckily I'm alert. Jamie, let's go. I feel uncomfortable within 100 meters of the police station." Jamie laughed. "Then you still dare to take on this case?" Thunder shrugged. "Who asked you to pay me so well? Okay, let's go." Jamie started the car and stepped on the accelerator. The car shot out like an arrow leaving a bow. After their car drove out, a black Porsche Cayenne quietly followed them. In order not to be discovered by the other party, the distance between the Cayenne and the Land Rover was always 1 to 200 meters. Lu Xing was in charge of driving while Suzaku used a pair of binoculars to observe the direction of the Land Rover. The left fork. To the right. Suzaku kept watch while directing Lu Xing. After following for more than half an hour, the Land Rover drove to the hospital where Su Yinqian was. Thunder jumped out of the car and knocked on Su Yinqian's door with the stolen CD. Thunder had already changed his clothes. He was wearing a pair of jeans and a windbreaker. There was a bright smile on his face, just like a big boy. Su Yinqian looked at him. Her eyes moved but she didn't say a word. Her expression hid some wariness. Thunder smiled and handed the CD to her. "Don't worry, I'm here to help you. This is what you want." Su Yinqian took the CD and said lightly, "Thank you." "You're welcome. I'm leaving." Thunder waved and disappeared at the end of the corridor. Su Yinqian locked the door, took out a lighter and lit the CD. A few minutes later, the CD turned into a pile of dust and was washed down the drain. Thunder jumped into the Land Rover and started the car. The Cayenne continued to follow. Jamie glanced at Thunder and said, "Where do you live? I'll send you home." "No need, you can just drop me off at the next bus stop." Jamie exclaimed exaggeratedly. "No way, you took this case and got paid 1 million, but you took the bus home." Thunder smiled meaningfully. "Isn't it good to save a little?" He really got out of the car at the bus stop. Coincidentally, there was a bus coming. He didn't care where it was going and jumped on the bus. There weren't many people on the last bus. He found a seat and sat down. His deep gaze looked through the window and behind him. Suzaku saw Thunder sitting on the bus with her binoculars. She frowned slightly. Damn this guy, she didn't expect him to be so vigilant. He had separated from Jamie and was going in different directions. Her team could only split into two to follow. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 265. Suzaku said in a low voice, Lu Xing, continue to follow that Land Rover. I'll go after that man in black. Lu Xing turned to look at her. Be careful. I know. Remember to leave him alive. All right. Suzaku jumped down from the Kian and stood at the intersection. Coincidentally, a taxi came. She stopped it and asked the driver to follow the bus that Thunder was on. Although the bus had already driven a long distance, its speed was not as fast as the taxi. Soon they caught up with the bus. The bus stopped at the bus stop. Among the people who got off, there was no Thunder. Suzaku said coldly, continue to follow. After following for another 7 stops, Thunder finally got off the bus. He put his hands in his trouser pockets and stood under the bus stop. His hair covered his forehead, revealing a pair of deep eyes. He stood under the bus stop leisurely until the taxi stopped by the road. Suzaku got off the car. He watched her walk over step by step and the corners of his lips curled up. You've been following me for a long time, Suzaku said indifferently. You're very vigilant. Thunder grinned. In my line of work, if I wasn't vigilant, I would have been arrested long ago. Suzaku stared into his eyes. Thunder, you're the best art forger and art thief in China. I didn't expect you to help others steal discs. Thunder's gaze swept across the iPad in her hand and he shrugged. Looks like you've investigated me very carefully. Your database is quite impressive. Suzaku didn't deny it. She had already taken a picture of Thunder on the way and sent it to the Senka Group's database for comparison. Very quickly she dug out all the details of Thunder. She said indifferently, if you cooperate, I won't make things difficult for you. Thunder's eyes flashed with a smile. I've always been very cooperative with a beauty like you. Suzaku's expression didn't change. She said indifferently, who hired you to steal discs? Jamie. Who's Jamie? Jamie is the driver in the Land Rover. He was the one who took care of my operation this time. Thunder crossed his arms and did not hide anything. I snuck into the police station, and Jamie was in charge of hacking the police station's surveillance cameras. Suzaku asked, Jamie's identity? Thunder shrugged. I'm not sure. I only know that his name is Jamie. He seemed to have thought of something. Ah, right, he should be Italian. He kept talking to me in Italian. Luckily, I'm very knowledgeable and know a little bit of Italian. Suzaku's eyes moved as she asked, how did he contact you? Mobile phone. Thunder stroked his chin. I don't know how he got my number. I'm guessing that if you call his number now, his phone will be turned off or the service will stop. Suzaku took out her mobile phone and dialed the number he gave. Sure enough, she heard a cold female voice reminding her that the user had turned off her phone. People like them wouldn't leave any evidence for others to use against them. As soon as the transaction was over, Jamie had already turned off his phone and threw it away. All right, I've already told you everything I know. Can I go now? Thunder spread out his hands. Suzaku replied with a faint After he turned to leave, she suddenly said in a voice that was neither loud nor soft, I'm very curious. Why didn't Jamie kill you to silence you? Logically speaking, only the dead keep secrets. Are you really not close to each other? A glint flashed across Thunder's eyes. He turned around and smiled mischievously. Perhaps it's because of my personal charm that Jamie couldn't bear to kill me. We really aren't close. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you these things. Is that so? Suzaku didn't comment, but her gaze followed his back as he left. Her brows slowly furrowed. Regardless of whether Thunder was telling the truth or not, the main point was that Jamie, if they caught him, they might be able to dig out Su Yunqian's backer. Thunder put his hands in his trouser pockets and walked confidently into a dark alley. When he was sure that no one was following him, he took out his phone and dialed a number. After 2 rings, Jamie's voice came through. Yes. Jamie, let me remind you. Someone is following you. Be careful. He didn't wait for Jamie to speak and hung up the phone. He threw the phone into the trash can. He shrugged and ran his fingers through his hair sadly. Sigh, it was time for him to change his ID and phone again. Jamie really wanted to curse. Damn Thunder, couldn't he have warned him earlier? It was too late now. Jamie had already parked the car outside his apartment. Through the rearview mirror, he saw a Kian parked by the road. That was the stalker. Jamie frowned. He wasn't in a hurry to get out of the car. Instead, he dialed the phone in the apartment to inform his companions. Soon, 2 foreign brawny men with guns rushed out. They fired at the Kian. The bullets stuck in the bulletproof glass and were covered with fine cracks. The intense gunshots didn't stop. The Kian was shot like a beehive, but the people inside didn't move at all. The 2 brawny men held their guns and cautiously moved towards the Kian. A brawny man aimed at the car and waved his hand. Another brawny man kicked open the rear door that was riddled with bullet holes. The moment he stuck his head out to check, a pair of hands suddenly reached out from under the car and grabbed his ankles. Then with great force they pulled him back. Ah! The brawny man cried out in shock. His body fell back with a thud. His whole body was pulled under the car. There was an intense struggle. From time to time, arms or legs would come out of the car. The brawny man in charge of cover bent down to look down, but he didn't dare to shoot. He was worried that he would accidentally shoot his companions. Bang bang. 2 gunshots sounded. The fight under the car stopped. Blood slowly flowed out from under the car. The brawny man called his companions' names twice. There was no response. He gritted his teeth and shot under the car. Suddenly, a black figure jumped out from the other side of the car. Bang! A gunshot sounded. The brawny man was shot in the forehead. He stared dumbfoundedly at the pistol in the black figure's hand and slowly fell to the ground. Lu Xing expressionlessly glanced at the corpse in front of him. Holding a pistol, he broke into the apartment. At the same time when the gunfight happened, Jamie had already escaped into the apartment. He tied the pistol to his waist and planned to jump out of the window and escape from the backyard. He didn't expect that just as he jumped out of the window, 2 men in black suits jumped out from the bushes and captured him. Jamie knew Mika Kito's methods. In order to force a confession out of him, he would definitely torture himself until he was better off dead. So when the 2 men escorted him to the car, he suddenly bent his arm and hit the man in black behind him in the ribs. Taking advantage of the moment when the other party relaxed, he suddenly turned and ran towards the road. Bang! Shooting Star raised his arm and fired a shot at Jamie's leg. He fell to his knees with a thud and smashed his head onto the road. Catch him! Don't let him die! Lu Xing roared. 2 of his men ran over and pressed Jamie's head. Lu Xing reached out to check Jamie's breathing and pulse. His breathing was very weak. Fresh blood flowed all over the ground. He growled. Quick, carry him to the car and send him back to the villa for treatment. When Jamie was carried to Miyamoto Hanzo's operating table, he had already stopped breathing. It turned out that not only did he hit his head on the ground, but when Lu Xing and the others pressed his head down, he also bit off his tongue. Miyamoto Hanzo shook his head. This guy wants to die. There's no saving him. Lu Xing's expression turned ugly. Boss had instructed them to keep him alive, but he still died in his own hands. How was he going to explain this to Boss? Just then, Suzaku pushed in a man who was tied up. The man's eyes were covered with a black cloth, and he was mumbling nonstop. Why are you like this? I've already said that I don't know anything about Jamie. Lu Xing's gaze turned over. Suzaku pursed her lips and pulled the black cloth off the man's face, revealing Thunder's handsome face. Suzaku said mildly, Jamie is already dead. When Thunder saw Jamie lying on the operating table, a complicated look flashed across his eyes. He shouted, Hey, what does his death have to do with me? I've already told you that I only took 1 million from him to help him steal the CD from the police station. Our relationship is that simple. Vermilion Bird coldly snorted. You called Jamie in the alley, I already heard it. She raised her hand and shook the thing in her hand. This phone is the one you threw in the trash can. How about it? I'm not wrong, am I? More than an hour ago, Suzaku had secretly followed behind Thunder and eavesdropped on his phone call. She had then blocked Thunder from the other exit and fought with him without a word. In the end, she had subdued him and tied him up and brought him to the villa. All right, you win. I did call Jamie, but that doesn't prove that we're old friends. He's my employer. I'm just reminding him out of goodwill. Can't I do that? Yes, of course you can. You can continue to quibble, but you'll soon know that this is wrong. Suzaku waved her hand and 2 bodyguards came forward and forced the braces into Thunder's mouth. She said coldly, "This is to prevent you from committing suicide because you can't take the torture. Welcome to hell on earth and enjoy 108 torture tools." When the bodyguards pushed a small cart full of tools in front of Thunder, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. These tools were all stained with blood. No matter which one was used on him, it would make him wish he was dead. Lu Xing put on the gloves expressionlessly and glanced at him. "It's not too late for you to talk now," Thunder shouted. I'll talk. He was just an elegant art thief who dealt with expensive art and antique dealers. At most, he would be chased by the police. He had never seen such a cruel situation. The other party hadn't even made a move, and he couldn't take it anymore. Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 266. Tell me, I want to know Jamie's background. Lu Xing pulled up a chair and sat in front of Thunder. Thunder smiled bitterly. Actually, I really don't know much. Last year, I stole a painting by Raphael from the Uffizi Art Gallery. At that time, the seller I contacted was one of Jamie's subordinates. Jamie said that he appreciated my methods and left my contact information. This is the first time he contacted me to help him. That simple? Don't you know the boss behind him? Lu Xing looked doubtful. Thunder was helpless. It's really that simple. I don't have a personal relationship with him. Other than knowing that he's Italian and controls the black market for art, I know nothing about him. From the information revealed by Thunder, Mika Kito could only guess that Su Yunqian was related to the Italian mafia. As for who her backer was, she didn't know. According to Thunder, he had stolen Raphael's painting, Shao Girl in a Scarf. Jamie's men had helped him dispose of the stolen goods. If he could find the whereabouts of the painting and trace back to the source of the stolen goods, he might be able to find the organization behind Jamie. Mika Kito personally called Tomac and asked him to help investigate this matter. After the interrogation, Jiang Dao walked quickly to Mika Kito and said in a low voice, "A hacker attacked our database. Dao has already followed your instructions and left a loophole for the other party. The other party has successfully destroyed the video, but Dao has also traced the IP address. It's a public network in Rome." The hacking incident once again proved that Su Yunqian was indeed related to the mafia. Mika Kito sneered. She thinks that she can sleep with Wu Yu just because she destroyed the evidence? I'm going to destroy all of her hopes. An hour later, Jiang Dao uploaded all the videos and recordings to the internet. Also, mail the backup to the TV station. Tomorrow morning, Su Yunqian will be greeted with an earth-shattering scandal. Suzaka suddenly said, "Do you want to replace the CD that was replaced by Thunder in the police station?" Mika Kito raised her hand. "I'll send someone else to handle this." As an influential figure in the underworld, how could he not bribe 1 or 2 government officials? There were also corrupt people in the police station. As long as he had something on them, they would naturally do things for him. It would be a piece of cake to change the disc. Su Yunqian tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep, until she received a mysterious phone call, telling her that the evidence in Beitang Shun's hands had been destroyed. Only then did she feel completely relieved. She comfortably lay on the bed and slept until dawn. She was awakened by a quick knock on the door. She slowly changed her clothes and combed her hair before opening the door of the ward. Kacha. The flashes of the camera almost blinded her, and she subconsciously raised her hand to cover her face. A group of reporters crowded the door, holding cameras and microphones in their hands. They asked all at once, Miss Sue, is the video real? Did you really set up a trap for Mr. and Mrs. Bailey with the mysterious man? Miss Sue, were you really raped, or was it an act? Miss Sue, who is the mysterious man? Who is the darling you mentioned on the phone? Miss Sue, does your family know about the trap you set? Miss Sue. Miss Sue, a series of questions flooded Su Yinqian like a tide, almost suffocating her. She covered her face with one hand and blocked the reporters at the door with the other. She returned to the room and wanted to close the door, but it was blocked by two male reporters with their bodies. There was no way she could close it. Su Yinqian suddenly put down the hand that was covering her face. Tears welled up in her beautiful eyes and she sobbed softly. Mommy, I'm so scared. Where are you? Sob sob. The reporters were instantly dumbfounded. They held their cameras and shot. And the questions came to an abrupt end. A reporter behind shouted, Miss Sue, your acting skills are so good. If you were to act in a movie, you would definitely win an Oscar. It's so scary. Get out of the way. Su Yinqian cried harder and harder. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain, making people pity her. Miss Sue, stop acting. The video of you on the internet is going viral. Sob sob. Su Yinqian did not refute. Instead, she squatted down, curled up into a ball, and sobbed. She looked like an abandoned animal, pitiful and pitiful. She even cried out miserably, Nurse, save me. As if responding to her cry for help, the doctor and nurse heard the news and rushed over. They squeezed in front of Su Yinqian and blocked the reporters behind them. Please get out of the way. Don't film anymore. This is a hospital. A reporter put the microphone in front of the doctor and asked anxiously, Are you Miss Sue's attending doctor? Is Miss Sue really crazy? Or did she use her superb acting skills to deceive everyone? No comment. Please respect my patient. The doctor politely and coldly threw down this sentence. He escorted Su Yinqian back to the ward and closed the door with a bang. The head nurse said politely, Everyone, this is a hospital. Our patient needs to be quiet. Please leave. A female reporter smiled and said, Head nurse, may I ask if Miss Sue is really sick? The head nurse replied, This is the patient's privacy. It's not convenient for us to disclose it. Everyone, please cooperate with the hospital's regulations. The reporters pestered the doctor and nurse to ask more questions, but the answers they received were, It's not convenient to disclose. No comment, and so on. They had to give up and leave the hospital. The doctor and nurse comforted Su Yinqian. When she calmed down, they left. They sent security guards to guard outside the ward to prevent the patient from being disturbed by the media again. Su Yinqian was the only one left in the ward. Her gaze suddenly turned cold. She turned on the computer and realized that her scandal had spread throughout the entire city. The television news and newspaper reports about her were all over the place. She had also become a celebrity on the internet. Someone dug up her previous kidnapping videos and sharply analyzed that when she read the note written by the kidnapper, her expression was strange and her expression was too fake. There were also people who collected Su Yinqian's previous public photos and reports of her participation in public welfare activities and charity activities. They criticized her smile for being too fake, criticized her for using public welfare and charity to raise her image, and accused her of being a hypocrite. After that, some employees of the Su group who were not willing to reveal their names posted that they had seen Su Yinqian throw a cup in anger with their own eyes. They had also seen her fierce gaze and strange smile. The mask of a goddess had been exposed. There were also people who revealed that they had slept with Goddess Su. Goddess Su had SM tendencies and even posted photos of some instruments, such as whips, handcuffs, candles, and so on. Of course, there were no photos of Goddess Su. This person said that Goddess Su never left any evidence that could be used against her. Therefore, except for the person involved, almost no one knew her true nature. Even her ex-boyfriend, Bailey Han, was kept in the dark. As soon as this post was posted, it immediately became a godly post. Tens of thousands of people reposted it. Tens of thousands of people bowed to the post owner, and tens of thousands of people bombarded Su Yinqian. She soon became notorious and was despised by people. Su Yinqian was so angry that she smashed everything in the room, including the vase that Xiaoyi gave her. Because she was so angry, She did not notice that the moment the vase broke, a small black thing jumped under the bed. Damn it, calm down, I need to calm down. After venting, Su Yinqian clenched her fists and tried to calm down. The video was taken by her godfather, so who made the 2 phone recordings? Su Yinqian's mind raced. She clearly remembered that she made the phone calls in this room. Therefore, someone must have placed a listening device or surveillance device in the room. She looked through everything in the room, including the mattress, sofa, table, wardrobe, and even every corner of the bathroom. However, she did not find the listening device. She messed up the room, but she did not expect that the listening device she was looking for had already rolled under the bed. The Su family was implicated, and the villa was surrounded by reporters. However, no matter what people said, they still believed that Su Yinqian was innocent, and that she was framed. Now Mrs. Su placed all her hopes on the authenticity of the CD. Mrs. Su wanted to visit Su Yinqian at the hospital, but she could only sneak out from the back door. She wore sunglasses and a hat, and quietly came to the hospital. Fortunately, the reporters outside the room were all driven away by the nurses, so she did not encounter any obstacles when she entered. The room was in a mess. Su Yinqian was like a frightened little animal. She hugged her legs and trembled on the sofa. Her eyes were full of fear. When she saw Mrs. Su come in, she threw herself at her and cried, "Mommy, why did you come so late? There were so many people just now. It was so scary. Don't be afraid. Mommy is here." Mrs. Su held her daughter in her arms and gently stroked her back. "Yinqian, don't be afraid. Mommy won't let them hurt you." Before she came to the hospital, Su Bolin and Su Jin had already used their connections to do crisis PR and planned to clear Su Yinqian's name. Mrs. Su comforted Su Yinqian. Unexpectedly, the door of the ward was opened and the old lady of Bailey came in with her family. They were followed by 2 policemen and 2 reporters. One of the reporters was holding an interview microphone, and the other was carrying a camera. They aimed the camera at Mrs. Su and Su Yinqian. "Auntie." Mrs. Su saw this and had a bad feeling. The old lady snorted. "Huilan, I'll give Su Yinqian one last chance for the sake of the friendship between our families. If she admits her mistakes in front of everyone, I'll give her a chance to turn over a new leaf. If she refuses to come to her senses, then don't blame me for being cruel." Beauty novel Songshu 566. Chapter 267. Auntie, don't be fooled by the rumors. Yinqian would never do such a thing. Madame Su still defended her daughter at this point. The old madame's cold gaze locked onto Su Yinqian. She said coldly, "Su Yinqian, what else do you have to say for yourself?" Su Yinqian clenched her fists tightly. Her timid gaze swept across the crowd. A few thoughts flashed through her mind. In the end, she decided to take a gamble. Tears welled up in her eyes. She sobbed pitifully and said fearfully, "Grandma, you're so fierce." "Very well." The old madam was so angry that she stomped her walking stick on the ground. "You're still pretending at this point. I'll let you die a clear death." "Xiao Wang, sorry to trouble you." A policeman stood up from behind, took out a CD from his briefcase, and said, "After the technical department's identification and analysis, the face of the woman in this CD is exactly the same as Miss Su's. They belong to the same person, and the voice analysis is also a complete match. From this, we conclude that the woman in this CD is Miss Su." Madame Su's eyes widened in disbelief. No, this is impossible. Yinqian would never do such a thing. It's impossible." The old madam said coldly, "Huilan, whether you believe it or not, the truth is the truth." Her cold gaze fell on Su Yinqian. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife. "Su Yinqian, you're so heartless. Not only did you lie to us, but you even have the heart to lie to your parents. Look at your mother. She's been protecting you until now. How can you bear to do this?" Su Yinqian's expression was blank. Even in the face of the old madam's accusation, her expression did not change at all. Madame Su grabbed her shoulders. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Yinqian, tell mommy that you didn't lie to me. Tell me." Su Yinqian's blank expression didn't change, but her hands quietly clenched. The old madam's sharp gaze was fixed on her, trying to find a flaw in her. Therefore the old madam caught her every move. Old madam stared at her hands and sneered. Su Yinqian, you finally know how to be nervous. Otherwise, why are you clenching your hands so tightly? Even though she was calm, Su Yinqian couldn't help but tremble. Mrs. Su's hands on her shoulders sensed this subtle change. Yinqian, tell me the truth. Are those videos real? Mrs. Su stared into her daughter's eyes, holding on to the last glimmer of hope. Su Yinqian was silent. She kept silent. Xiaobao suddenly stood up. There was a strange smile on his pink cheeks. Don't force her. I have new evidence to prove that she's pretending to be crazy. He took out a recording pen from his pocket and pressed the play button. Immediately, there was the sound of things being smashed in the room. The old madam and the others looked at the messy floor. This must be the result of Su Yinqian smashing things just now. Suddenly, the sound of things being smashed stopped. Su Yinqian gritted her teeth and said, "Damn it. Calm down." I need to calm down. Xiaobao turned off the recording pen and snorted. Su Yinqian knows very well what happened. She also knows that she's in trouble. May I ask, how can a mentally ill person be so clear-headed? Madame Su shook her daughter's shoulders agitatedly. Yinqian, is this true? Did you really lie to us? Su Yinqian bit her lips tightly and didn't say a word. However, the despair in her eyes couldn't be hidden from everyone's eyes. Madame Su shook her head. She couldn't believe that her most beloved daughter would lie to her. She shook her daughter's shoulders as if she had gone crazy. Hurry up and deny it. Say that you didn't lie to me. Yinqian, tell them that you didn't lie. You didn't do those things. Su Yinqian closed her eyes in despair. Madame Su was on the verge of breaking down. She slapped her daughter's face and roared in grief. You bastard, how could you do such a thing? How could you hide it from your father and me? Do you know how much effort and tears we've shed for you? How could you trample on our hearts like this? You disappoint me. Madame Su was so angry that her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Su Yinqian hugged her nervously and called out anxiously, "Mommy, doctor." The doctor rushed in and anxiously checked on Madame Su's condition. Su Yinqian stood aside, not knowing what to do. Madame Su waved her hand, and the reporters stopped filming. Madame Su glanced coldly at Su Yinqian and said, "Xiao Gao, I want the things you filmed to be broadcasted on TV immediately." The reporter named Xiao Gao nodded repeatedly. "No problem. Let's go. Thank you for your hard work today." Madame Su chatted with the police and reporters for a while. She didn't look at Su Yinqian again, and let everyone out of the ward. Soon, all the electronic screens on the street were broadcasting the short clip of Madame Su exposing Su Yinqian's true colors. All the radio stations also broadcast it one after another. More negative news about Su Yinqian came flooding in. They said that she was cold-blooded and heartless. She didn't care about her family's feelings and kept them in the dark. Her mother was so angry that she fainted. They said that she was as cunning as a fox and didn't surrender until the last moment. She became a well-known bad woman. Mothers on the street used her as a negative example to teach their young daughters. Don't learn from that bad woman. If you become like this, I'll kill you and then commit suicide. Su Yinqian's image became the source of many young girls' nightmares for many years. Su Jin and took his weak mother home from the hospital. Su Yinqian followed behind them silently. When the reporters took photos, she was like a puppet. She didn't say a word and let them take photos without any resistance. After returning home, Su Jin and helped his mother upstairs. Su Bolin sat on the sofa and stared at Su Yinqian, who was standing at the entrance. His face was livid as he roared, "Kneel!" Su Yinqian's face was pale. She knelt on the ground with a thump. Her back was straight like a statue. Su Bolin was furious. He threw a thick stack of newspapers in front of her. "How did I give birth to such a shameless daughter like you?" The newspapers were scattered on the ground. Every one of them had news about her on the front page. Some said that she was hypocritical. Some said that she was having an affair behind her ex-boyfriend's back. Some accused her of framing Xiaodong and Beilihan. Even the fact that she had faked her pregnancy to force Beilihan to marry her was exposed. Su Yinqian finally understood what it meant to be kicked when a man is down. "You unfilial daughter. You actually hid it from us until the last moment. The more Su Bolin thought about it, the angrier he became. He raised his hand and slapped her hard on the cheek. 5 streaks of blood immediately appeared on her fair and tender face. Su Bolin wanted to slap her a second time, but Su Jinan rushed downstairs and stopped him. Su Jinan grabbed Su Bolin's arm and said in a low voice, "Dad, don't be rash. Let go of me. Let me beat this unfilial daughter to death." Su Bolin's eyes were red. How much heartache, how much tears, and how much effort had their family put in for this unfilial daughter? But she actually hid it from her family, and didn't care about what her family thought at all. Just thinking about this made Su Bolin want to beat her to death. "Dad, what's the use of hitting her now? The most important thing now is to find a way to solve this problem." Su Bolin paused for a moment and slowly put down his arm. "Jinan, get ready. We're going to Bailey's house now to ask for forgiveness." His eyes flashed sharply. He stared at Su Yinqian and raised his voice. "And you get ready. Let's go together." Su Yinqian pursed her lips and stood up trembling. Her legs were numb from kneeling for too long. She held onto the wall and slowly went upstairs. Looking at her lonely back, Su Jin, and had a complicated look in his eyes. In the living room of Bailey's old residence, Su Bolin brought Su Jin, and then Su Yinqian to ask for forgiveness. The 3 of them stood awkwardly at the door. The old madam and Bailey Xiong sat on the sofa with cold expressions. They lowered their eyes and drank tea, as if they didn't hear the butler's announcement. After giving them the cold shoulder for nearly 10 minutes, the old madam slowly raised her head and said mildly, "President Su, thank you for coming. You brought your son and daughter. What's the matter?" Su Bolin's old face squeezed out an awkward smile. "Auntie, we're here to ask for forgiveness." He suddenly turned to Su Yinqian and said sternly, "Yinqian, kneel down." Su Yinqian didn't say a word and knelt straight on the cold floor. "I don't deserve it. I'm just an old woman with one leg in the coffin. How can I deserve Miss Su's kneel? Housekeeper, quickly help Miss Su up. President Su, please go back too. Our small temple can't afford to worship a great Buddha." The old madam's every word was laced with sarcasm, mocking Su Bolin and the other 2 to the point that they couldn't even raise their heads. "Miss Su, quickly get up." The butler reached out to help Su Yinqian up, but she avoided him. Her legs seemed to have grown roots as she stubbornly knelt on the ground. Su Bolin's old face turned green and white. "Auntie, I'm very ashamed. It's my fault for not teaching her well. That's why Yinqian became like this. For the sake of the friendship between our 2 families, please give Yinqian a chance to turn over a new leaf." The old madam coldly looked at Su Yinqian, who lowered her head and didn't say a word. "I gave her a chance, but she didn't grasp it. When she hurt Xia Dong and Ahan, why didn't she think about the friendship between our 2 families? Bolin, if you still treat me as an elder, quickly go back. No matter what you say, I won't give you a chance." Su Yinqian suddenly knocked her forehead heavily on the ground and sobbed. "Grandma, I beg you. Please forgive me. I was confused for a moment. Don't. I don't deserve to be called grandma by you. Besides, you and Ahan have nothing to do with each other now. You have no reason to call me grandma." The old madam said mercilessly, "Butler, quickly help Miss Su up. Miss Su, quickly get up." The butler grabbed Su Yinqian's arm and forcefully pulled her up, but she remained on the ground and refused to get up. Beauty novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 268. Su Jinan, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly raised his head. "Old madam, Yinqian is insensible and has brought a lot of trouble and harm to the Bailey's family. We don't ask for your forgiveness. We just ask that you give her a chance to start anew. Our whole family will be grateful. Jinan, you're a good boy. No matter what, I won't let go of this matter. Now you can solve the problems outside by yourselves. I won't interfere. That's all I have to say. I'm tired. Butler, see them out. Everyone, please go back." The 3 of them left gloomily. Old madam suddenly said, "Wait." The 3 of them were delighted. Old madam said, "Butler, send President Su's gift back." The Su family looked defeated. The Bailey's family had a very important position in this media war. If they refused to let go, the Su family would have a hard time dealing with this matter. On the way home, the atmosphere was heavy. No one spoke. Su Yunqian knew that she had done something wrong, so she acted more carefully. After returning home, she didn't dare to look at her father's pale face. She quietly went upstairs and locked herself in her room. No one knew what she did. At dinner, she didn't go downstairs. Although her family was angry at what she had done, they didn't completely give up on her. They still asked the butler to send food to her room. However, the food was the same when it was sent in. She didn't eat it at all. The next morning, Su Yunqian still didn't go downstairs. Mrs. Su was worried and asked the butler to go upstairs to check on her. The butler knocked on the door. "Miss." There was no response. "Miss, I'm coming in." The butler opened the door with the spare key. The room was empty. There was no sign of Su Yunqian at all. He looked around. There was no bathroom, cloakroom, or bedroom. Finally, he found a letter written in blood in front of the dressing mirror. The butler's fingers trembled violently. He scrambled downstairs and shouted in panic, "Bad news, old master, bad news." "What's going on?" Su Bolin frowned. This is Mrs. Blood letter." The butler's hands trembled as he presented the blood letter to Su Bolin. Su Bolin's eyes narrowed. He hurriedly took the blood letter and hurriedly read the words on it. All the blood in his body rushed to the top of his head. His vision turned black and he almost fainted. The butler hurriedly supported him and pinched his philtrum. "Master, don't be agitated." "Dad." Su Jinan stood up abruptly and walked over quickly. He helped Su Bolin to the sofa. Mrs. Su nervously covered his forehead with a wet towel. Su Bolin slowly opened his eyes and grabbed Su Jinan's wrist. His voice trembled. "Quick, go find Yunqian, quick." "Dad, don't be agitated. I'll go and find Yunqian right away." Su Jinan picked up the bloody letter that had fallen to the ground and hurriedly read the handwriting on it. His expression changed greatly. Without caring about anything else, he hurriedly grabbed his coat and car keys and rushed out of the villa. Mrs. Su wiped her tears and asked, "Honey, what happened to Yunqian?" Her son left with the letter, and she was the only one who didn't know what was written on it. Su Bolin shook his head and painfully closed his eyes. He didn't want to say anything more. However, the words on the letter floated clearly in his mind. "Daddy, Mommy, Big Brother, I'm sorry. I was too stubborn and too stupid. I thought that love was everything. For love, I didn't hesitate to sacrifice my reputation and body. In exchange, what I got in return was betrayal and despair. I'm unfilial and brought shame to the Su family. I don't want to be a disgrace in this world anymore. If there's an afterlife, I want to be Daddy and Mommy's daughter and Big Brother's sister. At that time, I will be filial to my parents and respect my brothers. Big Brother, please take care of Daddy and Mommy. Don't look for me and don't be sad. I brought this upon myself. I love you." Yunqian's last words. "Honey, did something happen to Yunqian?" Mrs. Su shook Su Bolin's shoulder uneasily. "Tell me, did something happen?" Su Bolin's throat was filled with the taste of blood. He clenched his fists tightly. "No, nothing will happen to Yunqian. Huilan, hurry up and order the servants to go out and find Yunqian." Okay, I got it." Mrs. Su was terrified. She hurriedly asked the butler to call all the servants in the house and ordered them to go out and find Yunqian. Su Bolin forced himself to sit up and called his old friend to help him. He also called the police. He thought that the chief would send people to find Su Yunqian for the sake of the Su family. However, the chief tactfully said that he couldn't file a case since Su Yunqian had been missing for less than 24 hours. Su Bolin knew that the chief was influenced by the old lady of the Bailey. He shamelessly called the old lady. The old lady just said faintly, "Su Yunqian's matter has nothing to do with me." Then she ruthlessly hung up the phone. The Su couple was anxious, but they couldn't do anything. It was expected that the old lady wouldn't forgive Yunqian for what she had done. Although the Su family had suffered a great impact because of the scandal, it had accumulated a huge network of connections for decades. Many people were helping to find Su Yunqian's whereabouts. Su Jinan drove fast all the way. Several times, he almost had an accident because of the high speed. He was anxious and his face was cold. He tried to think of where Su Yinqian might go. He drove almost across the entire city, but he still couldn't find her. 10 hours later, dusk had fallen. Su Jin and drove the car to the beach with the last glimmer of hope. He ran on the beach in the wind, looking for her everywhere. Half an hour later, he saw a shoe on the edge of a cliff. He rushed over like a madman and picked up the shoe with trembling hands. It was a red high-heeled shoe with tiny crystals inlaid on the shoe. He recognized it. It was the shoe that he had given to Yunqian on her 25th birthday. Yunqian. Su Jin and held the shoe and called Su Yunqian's name in a panic. But only the sound of the wind responded to him. He ran to the edge of the cliff and leaned over to look down. A white silk scarf was wrapped around a protruding rock halfway up the mountain. The surging waves slammed against the rock, splashing water wet the silk scarf and shattering all of his hopes. That silk scarf was also a gift he had given her. Su Jin and couldn't hold back his tears anymore. He knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. Yinqian, why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? The news of Su Yinqian jumping into the sea spread quickly. Su Bolin seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. His head was full of white spots. Madame Su cried until she fainted a few times. Her eyes were swollen like peaches. In the end, her tears ran dry and her voice became hoarse. She looked haggard like a falling autumn leaf. As the eldest son of the Su family, even if Su Jinan was heartbroken, he had to deal with the affairs of the family and the company. The salvage team searched for 2 days, but they couldn't find Su Yunqian's body. The Su family still held on to the last hope that Su Yinqian wasn't dead. Maybe she would appear again one day. When Yi Siki found out that Su Yunqian's true face was exposed, she was still on vacation in Sanya. Lin Shihao took Nuno to play by the shallow sea. Yi Siki was lying under a parasol and using her phone to surf the internet. She saw many scandals about Su Yinqian and saw her jump into the sea. She couldn't help but sit up from the recliner. That's great. This is so satisfying. Yi Siki jumped off the recliner excitedly and dialed an international number. Xia Dong had just woken up from her afternoon nap. Her voice was still a little hoarse. Hello. Xia, let me tell you. Su Yunqian's scandals have been exposed. She's now a rat on the street. Everyone wants to beat her up. I only just found out that this woman is so evil. She did so many evil things. Luckily you and Bailey Han are fine. Yi Siki was very excited. Xia Dong scratched her head. Siki, calm down. Speak slowly. I'm still a little confused. Hurry up and surf the internet. Su Yunqian's evil deeds have been exposed. Apparently, she couldn't take the pressure and committed suicide out of guilt. After she jumped into the sea, her body hasn't been found yet. Xia Dong was completely awake. Her feelings were a little complicated. Although she hated Su Yinqian for causing her and Bailey Han so much trouble, she didn't hate her to the extent that she wanted her dead. Yi Siki didn't hear a response for a long time and frowned. Xia, don't tell me that you sympathize with Su Yinqian and pity her? She reaped what she sowed. You mustn't sympathize with her. Xia Dong smiled. I know. I won't sympathize with her. She deserved it. By the way, Yezi, it should be very cold over there, right? Keep warm. Don't catch a cold. It's starting to get cold in a city, but Shihao and I are now on vacation in Sanya with Nuno. Vacation? That's great. Have fun. Don't worry about these things anymore. When Xia Dong heard that she and Lin Shihao were on vacation together, she guessed that their relationship had returned to normal. She was very happy for them. Okay. Take care of yourself. If there's anything, call me. I got it. You take care too. The two of them chatted for a while more before hanging up. Mommy, come and play. Nuno waved at Yi Siki from afar. Coming. Yi Siki put her cell phone into her handbag and left it with the owner of a nearby stall. She smiled and ran over to her husband and daughter. The family of 3 played beach volleyball on the beach. When they were tired, Lin Shihao took Nuno to build a castle with fine sand. Yi Siki took photos of them with her camera. From time to time, she would tease them and make funny poses. Then, she would press the shutter to preserve the precious moment. In the evening, someone held a bonfire party on the beach. A group of people barbecued barbecue, drank cold beer, danced, laughed, and made noise. It was very lively. The enthusiastic aunts and uncles pulled Lin Shihao's family of 3 over. Nyonyo played with a group of children. Yi Siki was pulled by a few aunts to teach her how to dance. Lin Shihao joked with the men. He smiled and declined the beer they offered him. He picked up a glass of coconut juice and toasted with them. A man smiled and said, "Is it because your wife is here that you don't dare to drink? I didn't expect you to be a henpecked husband." Welfare Xingwu 799. Chapter 269. Lin Shihao smiled. "I'm not a good drinker. I'll make a fool of myself if I drink. Besides, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a henpecked husband. It's because I love her that I'm willing to be controlled by her." "Mrs. Lin, did you hear that? Your husband is confessing to you." The people around them jeered. Yi Siki was so busy learning the dance steps that she didn't know what to do. The auntie beside her poked her arm and whispered something in her ear. Only then did she realize what was going on over there. She looked up and smiled. Being henpecked is actually a sign that the husband dotes on his wife. "Hubby, am I right?" Lin Shihao smiled and looked at her. "Everything my wife says is right. Oh my God, that's so mushy. The two of you are so sweet." The men present shivered and had goosebumps all over the ground. "I'm so envious and jealous. How nice would it be if my husband could dote on me like this?" The women joked half seriously, but the envy in their eyes could not be concealed. Lin Shihao walked to Yi Siki amidst the laughter of the crowd. He stretched out his right hand like a gentleman and smiled. "Mrs. Lin, can I have a dance with you?" Yi Siki saw the gentleness and expression in his eyes. She smiled and put her hand in his palm. "Mr. Lin, I'd love to." Melodious music sounded in the night. Lin Shihao hugged Yi Siki's waist and led her to dance on the beach. The people around them were influenced by them. They also hugged each other and danced. Nyonyo and her little friends acted as foodies, sitting on the beach barefooted, watching the adults dance while eating happily. There was laughter and excitement here. No one noticed that not far away, there was a woman in a white dress standing by the beach. She quietly looked over. Her gaze followed Lin Shihao and Yi Siki as they danced. Her eyes gradually turned cold. It was late at night. Lin Shihao hugged Nyonyo, who was sleeping soundly, and Yi Siki held his arm. The family of 3 returned to the hotel. After putting Nyonyo back on the bed, Lin Shihao hugged Yi Siki's waist and quietly left her room. Yi Siki pointed at the bathroom. "Hubby, do you want to shower first or should I?" Lin Shihao hugged her tightly and leaned over to whisper in her ear. "Honey, let's shower together." Yi Siki's cheeks flushed red. She wanted to refuse, but when she looked up and saw his burning gaze, she didn't say anything in the end. She wrapped her arms around his neck and murmured, "Mm." It was destined to be a romantic night. Lin Shihao bent down, picked her up and walked straight into the bathroom. The bathtub was large enough to accommodate 2 people. Lin Shihao turned on the tap, and hot water of moderate temperature slowly flowed down. The bathroom was filled with a layer of mist. Lin Shihao hugged her waist gently and rested his chin on her head. He smelled the fragrance of her hair and the faint smell of lemon. Her stiff body gradually relaxed. Leaning against his chest, he leaned over and whispered in her ear, "Honey, it's been hard on you all these years." She hugged his waist with both hands, and her heart was filled with warmth. She whispered, "It's been hard on you too." His burning lips gently rubbed against her earlobe. His warm breath sprayed into her ear, and he whispered, "Honey, I love you." His affectionate confession moved her. She looked up and kissed him on the lips. "Hubby, I love you too." His throat moved, and his gaze deepened. He lowered his head and sucked on her lips, which were trying to escape, and slowly deepened the kiss. His delicate kiss spread to her neck. He held her waist with one hand and held the back of her head with the other. His heart was filled with tenderness. Being able to marry her as his wife was a blessing that he had cultivated for 3 lifetimes. He secretly swore in his heart that he would protect this happiness. His hand on her waist slowly tightened, and his other hand slowly slid down her back. She was wearing a dress. He pulled down the zipper on her back, and his fingers immediately touched her smooth and delicate skin. It was so smooth that he couldn't bear to part with it. His hand slowly slid down and landed on the exquisite curve of her waist. He stared into her eyes. His deep and dark gaze was like a deep well, sucking her heart and soul in. She was deeply immersed in his deep feelings, and her chest started to rise and fall rapidly. The dress slid down her shoulders, down to her waist, and down to her ankles. He lowered his head to look at her soft pink breasts. They were perky and almost popped out of her red bra. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he lowered his head to kiss her smooth forehead again. His soft lips wandered around her face. His kiss was extremely gentle, as if he was treating a treasure, making her feel that her entire body was deeply loved by him. His fine eyelashes gently brushed against her skin like feathers, causing her heart to throb. Her body trembled, and she almost couldn't stand steadily. He suddenly pressed her against the wall, one hand on her waist, and the other holding her hand. She slowly placed it on his clothes, and his voice was low and hoarse. "Honey, help me take it off." She was so shy that her eyelashes trembled. Her hands trembled as she unbuttoned his shirt one by one, revealing his firm and broad chest. When she touched his belt, her hand paused. He bit her shoulder and said hoarsely, "Continue." She unbuckled his belt with trembling hands, and the clicking sound of metal was crisp in the bathroom. When she unzipped it, her fingers couldn't help but touch his erect area. She heard his suddenly heavy breathing, and suddenly had the thought of teasing him. Her slender fingers slowly grasped and pressed lightly. His breathing became heavier, and his hoarse voice sounded extremely sexy. "Honey, you've stirred up my fire, so you have to be responsible for extinguishing it." She could clearly feel his slightly cold fingertips sliding across her skin. His fingers slowly traced the strap of her bra, then slid to her back and gently opened it. His movements were so gentle, as if he was treating his most beloved treasure, and he was afraid that he would hurt her if he moved too hard. She curled her body against his chest, and her soft body rubbed against his hard chest. He clenched his teeth, trying to suppress it. The scorching hot air had reached its peak, as if a match would explode in this enclosed space. He suddenly carried her horizontally and placed her in the bathtub that was already filled with water. After the two of them entered the water, the hot water overflowed from the sides of the bathtub. He was worried that the hard bathtub would hurt her, so he laid down in it. This position made her feel shy, but it also allowed her to see his expression clearly. His handsome face was already covered in sweat, and his brows were furrowed together. His sexy thin lips were tightly pursed, as if he was restraining himself to the extreme. However, his movements were slow and elegant. After that, she softened in his arms, and he helped her clean the mess below. She was so tired that she couldn't even open her eyes. He gently kissed her eyes, carefully wiped the water stains on her body, and then carried her back to the bed. The bright sunlight shone in through the thin curtains. Yisiki uncomfortably turned over, frowned and slowly sat up. Her entire body was sore, especially when she moved her legs. The soreness was even worse. Thinking about the scene last night, her cheeks couldn't help but heat up. "Hubby," she called out, but there was no response. There was a note at the bedside. "Wifey, I'm taking Nyo to play on the beach. You're awake, come over after breakfast." With a smile on her lips, she placed the note back at the bedside. After washing up and eating breakfast, she changed into a bohemian long dress and a white straw hat, and went to the beach to meet up with Lin Shihao and his daughter. Lin Shihao took his daughter to fly a kite by the beach. Nyo held the kite in her hand as she jogged. Lin Shihao looked at her from afar. She waved from time to time, and called out to him loudly. He smiled and waved back, and the father and daughter looked very warm. A woman in a long blue dress and a sun hat slowly walked to his side and said softly, "Senior." Lin Shihao's body stiffened, and he slowly turned around. His expression was not good. "Meiwei, why are you here?" Bai Meiwei had a faint smile on her face. "Senior, have you forgotten that I was planning to go to Sanya for a holiday? Although you can't accompany me, I can't waste my holiday, right?" Lin Shihao pursed his thin lips and said in a low voice, "I hope that you can pretend that you didn't see me." Bai Meiwei was stunned, and the corners of her lips slowly turned up. "Okay, I won't disturb your family of three." They stood sideways on the beach and didn't see Yi Siki walking over leisurely from afar. Yi Siki recognized Lin Shihao at a glance and quickened her steps towards him. Unexpectedly, a woman in a long blue dress and a yellow sun hat suddenly appeared beside him. The two of them seemed to be talking about something. Ever since the incident with Bai Meiwei, Yi Siki had become more sensitive. She felt a little uncomfortable when she saw a woman getting close to Lin Shihao. She almost jogged to a spot not too far away from them, then slowed down her steps and deliberately pretended to be very relaxed as she walked over to them. "Hubby, I'm here." Yi Siki smiled as she called out Lin Shihao's name. She didn't even look at Bai Meiwei. Lin Shihao did not expect her to suddenly appear, and a hint of panic quickly flashed through his eyes. He subconsciously took 2 steps forward and blocked in front of her, blocking her line of sight. "Wife, have you eaten breakfast?" "Yes, I have." Yi Siki deliberately took a step sideways and glanced at Bai Meiwei, whose back was facing them. "Hubby, who is that? Is she someone we know? Why don't you introduce her?" Lin Shihao pursed his lips. Just as he was about to say something, Bai Meiwei suddenly turned around and said with a smile, "Sister-in-law, what a coincidence." Yi Siki was stunned. Because Bai Meiwei was wearing a hat, she couldn't see her face clearly from afar. Now that she realized it was her, Yi Siki's entire body stiffened, and she almost stopped breathing. "Honey." Lin Shihao worriedly put his arm around her shoulders and hurriedly explained. "Honey, Dr. Bai happened to be on vacation here too." Dr. Bai, a way to draw the line. Bai Meiwei pinched her fingers into her palms and smiled faintly. "Yes, sister-in-law, I also applied for a vacation. I didn't expect to choose the same place as you guys. I saw Senior and came over to say hello. I hope I didn't disturb you guys." Awesome novel Shinwu 799. Chapter 270. Yi Siki lowered her eyes, her long eyelashes casting faint shadows on her eyelids. Lin Shihao tightened his grip on her shoulder. His worry and nervousness were transmitted to her. She forced a smile and slowly raised her head, revealing a faint smile. "How could that be? I hope you have fun." Bai Meiwei smiled. "Thank you. I hope you have fun too. My friend is waiting for me over there. I'll go over first." Yi Siki nodded and watched her graceful back disappear into the distance. She slowly pushed Lin Shihao's hand off her shoulder and silently walked over to Niu Niu. "Wifey." Lin Shihao quickly chased after her and suddenly grabbed her arm. He pulled her into his embrace and said anxiously, "Wifey, believe me. We really just met by chance. There's nothing between us." Yi Siki lowered her eyes. Her eyes were filled with tears. She didn't know if she should believe him anymore. Why did they have so many coincidences? "Wifey, look up at me." Lin Shihao saw that she was silent and panicked. He lifted her chin and saw that her eyes were filled with tears. His heart ached. He lowered his head and kissed her eyes. "Siki, Siki, baby, don't cry. There's really nothing between us." His gentle coaxing poked at her tears. She suddenly burst into tears. Her hands balled into fists and she hit his back fiercely. She broke down and shouted, "What do you want? What do you want? Don't cry, baby." Her cries were like sharp knives cutting into his heart. His heart was about to break. He hugged her tightly and frantically wiped away her tears. I hate you. She hit his back hard. I hate you. It's all my fault." Lin Shihao's eyes were also filled with tears. The two of them hugged each other tightly as if there was no one else around. The people on the beach looked at them in surprise. Niu Niu saw that something was wrong from afar. She pulled her kite and ran over. She tripped on a sand dune and fell with sand all over her face. She wiped her face and got up to continue running. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Niu Niu's small chest rose and fell rapidly. She looked up in fear and saw Yi Siki crying in Lin Shihao's arms. Her daughter's childish voice was like cold water, waking Yi Siki up. She took a deep breath and tried to suppress the emotions in her heart. She wiped the tears from her face and forced an ugly smile. "Niu Niu, mommy is fine." "Mommy, are you feeling unwell? You're crying so sadly." Niu Niu was already 6 years old. She was not a child that was easy to fool. Niu Niu's hair? How did you get sand all over your body?" How? Why are you all covered? Sand all. Sand. How? Nyo lifted her chubby little hand and wiped away the tears on her mother's face. She said seriously, Mommy, who bullied you? Tell me and I'll hit him for you. Siki smiled through her tears and pinched her daughter's tender cheeks. No one bullied me. My Nyo is the most obedient. Lin Shihao bent down and picked Nyo up. He ruffled her soft hair. Nyo, are you tired? Let's go back and rest for a while, okay? Okay. Nyo nodded obediently. She turned to look at Siki. She puffed up her cheeks and said seriously, Mommy, hold Daddy's arm. Don't get lost. Mommy isn't like you. I won't get lost. Siki smiled and ruffled her daughter's hair. Mommy, hold my arm. Hold my arm. The little girl was smart. She seemed to have noticed that something was wrong with Daddy and Mommy, so she begged her. Lin Shihao pursed his lips and reached out his arm. Honey, let's satisfy Nyo's request. Under her daughter's expectant gaze, Siki slowly held Lin Shihao's arm. Nyo was playing with her new friends in the courtyard of the hotel. Siki sat on the balcony and watched from afar. Lin Shihao hugged her shoulders from behind. Her body stiffened. She wanted to struggle, but she gave up in the end and let him hug her. He lowered his head and rubbed his chin against her hair. Honey, don't be angry. Siki looked at the wide palm trees that glowed charmingly under the sun. A couple walked hand in hand under the trees with sweet smiles on their faces. In a trance, she seemed to see herself and Lin Shihao when they were in university. Every morning, he would wait for her under the parasol tree under the girls' dormitory. He would bring her breakfast, rain or shine. At that time, they were just good friends. Until one day, she told him that a boy from the Chinese department had written her a love poem. He suddenly grabbed her wrist and told her very seriously that he liked her. They were together just like that. They dated for 8 years and were married for 7 years. She had always trusted him. She never thought that he would betray her one day. But now, her heart was filled with a sense of crisis. Bai Meiwei was beautiful, talented, and had a good family background. She, on the other hand, was already a haggard old woman. Even if Lin Shihao kept saying that he loved her, she still felt insecure and became more and more sensitive. Wifey. He hugged her, his words full of flattery. She sighed and held his hand. She whispered, Hubby, it's not your fault. I was too sensitive. I overreacted. Now that she thought about it, she had cried and made a scene in public just now. It was simply too embarrassing. He kissed her forehead and hugged her tightly without saying a word. A single slip could lead to everlasting regret. He was the one who had personally broken her trust in him. It would take a long time to repair that trust. He hesitated and thought about whether he should confess to her about his agreement with Bai Meiwei. Just as he was about to speak, his phone suddenly rang. It was Director Bai. Lin Shihao cleared his throat and picked up the phone. Hello, Director. What's the matter? Bai Jiao said apologetically. Xiao Lin, I'm very sorry to disturb your vacation. It's like this. The municipal party secretary's daughter is about to give birth. The expected date is in 2 days. They want to invite you to be the midwife. Lin Shihao frowned. Director, Dr. Wang and Dr. Chen are more experienced. Can you ask them to deliver the baby? Xiao Lin, I know that you're on vacation now and shouldn't mention this kind of thing. But the municipal party secretary personally asked you to deliver his daughter. I'm also very helpless. Lin Shihao pursed his lips. Bai Jiao said, How about this? I'll make up for the 2 days of vacation you missed at the end of the year. What do you think? Since the director had already said so, Lin Shihao couldn't refuse anymore. He could only say, Okay, director. I'll be back tomorrow. After ending the call, he sat beside Siki and said apologetically, Honey, there's a pregnant woman who asked me to deliver the baby. I'll be flying back to City A tomorrow. I'm very sorry. Siki put her hand on his forehead and rubbed his furrowed brows. She smiled slightly. It's okay. You can go back first. I'll take Nunyo out to play for 2 days. But you have to come to the airport to pick us up. Okay. He took her into his arms and kissed her forehead. Honey, thank you. He thanked her for supporting his work all these years. The next morning, Lin Shihao took a plane back to City A. Yi Siki wanted to send him to the airport, but he insisted. The two parted at the hotel entrance. He ignored everyone's gaze and hugged her tightly. He kissed her forehead before letting her go. He bent down and hugged Nyonyo. Nyonyo, Daddy will go home first. You have to listen to Mommy these 2 days. Don't run around. I got it. Goodbye, Daddy. Nyonyo kissed him on the cheek. The doorman opened the car door for Lin Shihao. After he got into the car, he waved at Yi Siki and his daughter reluctantly. The mother and daughter smiled and waved back. Only when the car disappeared did Yi Siki retract her gaze. She bent down and pinched her daughter's cheek. Baby, it's just the two of us now. Where do you want to go? Swimming pool. I want to learn how to swim. Okay, let's go to the swimming pool. Let's go back to the room to get our swimsuits first. Yi Siki held her daughter's little hand. The mother and daughter chatted and laughed as they returned to the room. This 5-star hotel had a very spacious open-air swimming pool. In front of the white building, there was a large area of clear water. Many tropical trees were planted on the side of the road. Under the sunshade, there were white reclining chairs. Many men and women in swimsuits were sunbathing on the shore or swimming in the pool. Under the blue sky and white clouds, the sun was a little strong. However, with the sea breeze blowing, it didn't feel hot. Nyonyo, lie down on the chair. Mommy will apply sunscreen for you. Yi Siki took the towel draped over her daughter's body and applied sunscreen for her. It's so itchy. Her daughter giggled and flipped over on the chair. Yi Siki smiled and said, It'll be done soon. Bear with it a little longer. Mommy, I'll help you apply the sunscreen. After applying it, Nyonyo snatched the sunscreen from her hands. Okay. Yi Siki lay face down on the lounge chair. Her daughter's chubby little hand applied the sunscreen on her back. After applying the sunscreen, Yi Siki pulled her daughter with one hand and held the children's swimming ring with the other. They walked towards the shallow water area. Under the parasol opposite them, a man wearing sunglasses sat on the lounge chair. He was bare-chested and wore a pair of black swimming trunks. His firm chest and abdominal muscles were perfect without a trace of fat. The women by the pool couldn't help but blush and their hearts beat faster. He held a glass of fresh orange juice in his hand. After seeing Yi Siki and her daughter, he placed the orange juice on the table. His slender fingers took off his sunglasses, revealing his deep eyes. They were as mysterious and beautiful as a lake in late autumn. His nose was very, very tall, and his facial features were handsome and charming. His lips curved into a devilish smile, making his mature face even more charming. Ad Xingwu 799. Chapter 271. Two beauties in bikinis were about to spurt blood from their noses. Their faces were red as they tried to strike up a conversation with him. He glanced at them and smiled. I'm sorry, but I'm already married. The beauties' hearts were broken. He ignored the beauties' gazes and got up. With steady steps, he walked towards Yi Siki and her daughter. So he's really married. His child is already so big. The two beauties hugged each other with tears in their eyes. Why did such a charming man become someone else's husband? Boohoo. Xiao Tianxing walked towards Yi Siki step by step. Looking at the two of them in swimsuits of the same color, holding hands and chatting happily, he couldn't help but imagine what it would be like if he had a wife and daughter. Yi Siki held Nyonyo's hand and turned her head to talk to her. She didn't pay attention to what was in front of her until a pair of long legs blocked them. She subconsciously looked up and suddenly met a pair of deep eyes. Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows and chuckled. What a coincidence. Yi Siki was stunned. The next second, her face was a little hot. This person was half naked and very close to her. She silently took a step back. His eyes revealed a teasing look. What? Don't you recognize me again? Yi Siki pursed her lips. Mr. Xiao, why are you here? Xiao Tianxing nodded casually. So you still remember me? Not bad. This is a tourist attraction. Naturally, I'm here for a vacation. Yi Siki subconsciously looked around. Alone? Xiao Tianxing smiled meaningfully. I have a female companion. Oh. She thought that a rich young master like him wouldn't come to such a place for a vacation alone. She shook her daughter's hand and said politely, "Mr. Xiao, that's all. I'm going to take Niu swimming." Xiao Tianxing suddenly squatted down and pinched Niu's pink cheeks. He said gently, "You're Niu?" Niu blinked her beautiful big eyes, revealed a cute smile, and sweetly said, "Hello, uncle." "Good girl." Xiao Tianxing rubbed her hair. "How old are you?" 6 years old. Niu tilted her head curiously. "Uncle, are you friends with my mommy? I've never seen you before." Xiao Tianxing's eyes curved into crescents with warmth. "I'm your mommy's new friend. Uncle is very good at swimming. Do you want uncle to teach you?" Before Niu could answer, Yisiki hurriedly said, "No, Mr. Xiao. I won't trouble you." Xiao Tianxing carried Niu and stood up. "It's no trouble at all." After that, he walked straight to the pool. Yisiki hurriedly chased after him. "Mr. Xiao, I really don't want to trouble you. You should accompany your female companion." Xiao Tianxing looked back at her and raised his eyebrows. "I'm accompanying her." Yisiki's mouth twitched and her face turned ugly. "Mr. Xiao, I don't think you need me to remind you that I'm married." "I know. Are you interested in me?" He showed a frightened expression and took a step back. "I don't like a married woman like you." "Very well. Then please explain your current behavior." Yisiki frowned. She didn't like the feeling of being ambiguous with men. Xiao Tianxing sighed. "Mrs. Lin, you seem to be too sensitive. Let me ask you, where's your husband?" "What does this have to do with my husband?" Yisiki's frown deepened. "Idiot." Xiao Tianxing's face was full of disappointment. He lowered his voice and said, "If your husband sees you with the handsome me, do you think he'll be jealous? If he is jealous, it means that he still has feelings for you, so he will do this and that. Do you understand?" Yisiki's frown slowly relaxed. "I think I understand a little. You mean to deliberately pretend to be very intimate with me to provoke my husband?" Xiao Tianxing's eyes were full of admiration. "You're a promising child." Yisiki shook her head. "I'm sorry to inform you that this trick won't work, because my husband has already left Sanya." "Okay. We'll wait for another chance." Xiao Tianxing had no intention of putting Niu down. Instead, he carried her into the water. Yisiki quickly followed them into the water. "You don't have to act now. You'd better leave quickly. I haven't taught Niu how to swim yet." Xiao Tianxing lowered his head and smiled at Niu. "Niu, lie on my arm and try to make yourself float." "Okay." The little girl's comprehension ability was very strong. She lay on Xiao Tianxing's arm and paddled with her little arms. Her little short legs slapped the water surface, splashing water all over Xiao Tianxing's head. He didn't care and shook his head to shake off the water droplets. He smiled and said, "Very good. Niu, continue." Yisiki was speechless as she watched from the side. From time to time, she would help correct Niu's posture. She and Xiao Tianxing cooperated seamlessly. Half an hour later, Niu was able to successfully float without leaning on Xiao Tianxing's arm. She kicked her short legs, waved her small hands, and circled around them. Giggling happily, she accidentally drank a mouthful of water. With a bitter face, she stuck out her tongue and shook her head like a puppy. Xiao Tianxing laughed loudly. If the little girl wasn't still paddling, he really wanted to pick her up and rub her hair. She was too cute, just like the Tibetan Mastiff that Yin raised. What a lousy metaphor. In an hour, little Niu was already able to swim 3 to 4 meters without any help. She smiled proudly. "Mommy, Uncle Xiao, aren't I awesome?" "Awesome." Xiao Tianxing picked her up and kissed her cheek. He laughed heartily and said, "Niu, you're really awesome. Uncle Xiao also wants to have a daughter as smart as you. Then hurry up and find a wife and have one." Yisiki quickly snatched her daughter from his arms and looked at him vigilantly. "Don't be so petty. I won't fight with you." Xiao Tianxing reached out and patted Niu's head. "Niu, Uncle Xiao Tianxing will be your godfather, okay?" Niu bit her lip with her snow-white teeth and blinked her big eyes. "Uncle, I can't make the decision on this matter. You have to discuss it with my daddy and mommy." Yes. My good daughter is right." Siki praised her daughter and kissed her cheek. She looked up and stared at Xiao Tiansheng. My husband and I will definitely not agree to this. Xiao Tiansheng spread his hands. Why? Isn't it good to have one more person to dote on Niao? Niao already has many people doting on her. She doesn't need you. Actually, she didn't want to have anything to do with him. Xiao Tiansheng clasped his hands over his heart and looked hurt. I'm simply too sad to hear you say that. Siki smiled and changed the topic. Thank you so much for today. We'll get going first. Goodbye. Niao hugged Siki's neck and waved her small hands with a smile. Uncle Xiao, goodbye. Xiao Tiansheng soaked in the pool and watched the mother and daughter with a swimming towel draped over their shoulders as they slowly walked away holding hands. His sexy thin lips curved slightly. He put on his swimming goggles and suddenly dove into the water and swam towards the opposite shore. Under the sunlight, his wheat-colored body had a mesmerizing glow. When he stood up from the water, water droplets slowly rolled down his muscular chest and slid down his slender legs to the ground. His entire body exuded a fatal charm. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Siki accompanied her daughter to watch a few episodes of cartoons. The little girl was tired and fell asleep in her arms. She carried her daughter, who was wearing cherry ball pajamas, and placed her back on the bed. After she came out of the shower, she heard her phone ring. It was Lin Shihao. Honey, are you asleep? She wiped her hair with one hand. Not yet. I just took a shower. How about you? I just came out of the hospital. Close the doors and windows when you sleep at night. Don't lower the temperature of the air conditioner too low, and cover yourself with the blanket. His voice was gentle, and he reminded her a lot of things. She smiled. Okay, I got it. Hurry and go home. Drive carefully on the road. Have you eaten? A boring conversation between the husband and wife began. I ordered takeout, but it's not as good as yours. Siki smiled. Wait for me to go home. I'll cook something good for you. Lin Shihao chuckled. My wife is so nice. You're so mushy. Do you want to hear something even more mushy? She laughed. Yes. His voice was low and very serious. Honey, I miss you. She stopped smiling and replied. He was unhappy. What do you mean by Did you miss me? She purposely made him angry. Means I know. Didn't we just say goodbye this morning? I don't miss you. He gritted his teeth and was a little annoyed. Hurry up and tell me you miss me too. Otherwise, I won't hang up. Are you an idiot? If you don't hang up, I can. She raised her eyebrows proudly. I won't tell you even if I miss you. He laughed happily. You just admitted that you miss me. Did I say that? Why don't I remember? Honey, you're being naughty again. When you come back, I'll punish you. She thought of his so-called punishment and blushed. I'm hanging up. Hurry and go home. Okay, I miss you. Good night. Good night. I miss you too. After ending the call and drying her hair, it was almost 9 o'clock. Her phone suddenly rang again. It was an unknown number. Hello. A familiar woman's voice came from the other end of the line. Sister-in-law, I'm by Meiwei. Can I see you? Siki suddenly gripped the phone tightly. After a while, she found her voice. What's the matter? I want to talk to you in person. It's very late now. Let's do it tomorrow. I'm going back to City tomorrow. Let's do it now. I'll wait for you at Purple Melody Bar. Siki changed her clothes and looked at herself in the dressing mirror in a daze. Thinking about Bai Meiwei's beautiful face, she finally decided to put on some light makeup. Purple Melody Bar was not far from the hotel she was staying at. For the customers at the bar, the night had just begun. Awesome novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 272. The lights in the bar flickered, and the electronic music was deafening. The huge stage was brightly lit, and a group of beauties in bikinis were dancing erotically. Bai Meiwei was wearing a sexy red dress with a deep V-neck. Her deep cleavage was faintly discernible. She had exquisite facial features and a gentle smile on her face. Siki thought that if she were a man, she would also be attracted to such a beautiful woman like her. Siki sat opposite her. Bai Meiwei pushed a drink in front of her and said, "This is a non-alcoholic drink. I ordered it for you." Yi Siki said politely, "Thank you, Miss Bai. What do you want to talk to me about?" Bai Meiwei smiled slightly. Under the dim light, her smile was really alluring. "Sister-in-law, I think you can tell that I love Shi Hao." Shi Hao. She actually called him so intimately. Yi Siki's chest burned with anger. She dug her nails into her palms, but her expression was calm. "So." Bai Meiwei's smile froze. "I love him. I can give him status, fame, and money. So please leave him." Yi Siki's eyes narrowed, and she stared at her sharply. "Did old Lin ask you to tell me this?" Bai Meiwei's red lips curved. "No, but that's what he thinks." Yi Siki sneered. "Is that so? If that's what he really thinks, then please tell me himself. You don't have to worry about our marriage." Bai Meiwei's lips moved. Some words almost slipped out of her mouth, but she held them back and maintained her elegant smile. "After all, you are his wife. He can't say these words, so I'll pass them on to you." "Then I really have to thank you." Yi Siki's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. "Only now do I know that the third party in other people's relationships is so shameless. If this is what you want to talk to me about, then I'm sorry I can't keep you company." Yi Siki got up to leave. Bai Meiwei suddenly said, "Yi Siki, do you know what Shi Hao really wants?" Yi Siki turned around and stared at her coldly. "Plain happiness and a harmonious family. He told me these words before we got married." Bai Meiwei laughed mockingly. "You really don't understand him. Why is he so responsible? Why is his work first and his family second? It's because he wants to develop his career. A man's success can only be reflected through power and status. After my father retires, he can recommend Shi Hao to be the hospital's director. He will be the youngest director in the hospital's history. And you? What can you give him?" Yi Siki's fingernails dug deep into her palms, and her voice was extremely cold. "What I can give him is my love, my wholehearted, pure love. And he too loved me and our family." "Bai Meiwei, you claim to understand him. Why don't you ask him how much you weigh in his heart?" Bai Meiwei opened her mouth. Just as she was about to speak, Yi Siki suddenly cut her off and closed in on her. "Don't tell me that he loves you too. If he really loved you, he would have naturally asked for a divorce. You wouldn't even have a chance to negotiate with me. You came to me because you couldn't hold on to his heart, so you turned around and forced me to leave. Bai Meiwei, as someone who is a few years older than you, let me remind you, don't be a mistress. All along, mistresses have never had a good ending." Her words hit Bai Meiwei's sore spot. Bai Meiwei's expression turned ugly. She looked at Shi Hao with disdain and said coldly, "So you also know that you're a few years older than me. You're old and wrinkled. Do you really think you can hold on to Shi Hao's heart like this?" Yi Siki laughed coldly. "Then I'm sorry. Old Lin has already loved me like this for 8 years. Our conversation ends here. I'll pay for this drink." She took out a bill from her wallet and placed it on the table. Then she walked away arrogantly in her high heels. Bai Meiwei was so angry that she gritted her teeth and punched the sofa. She thought Yi Siki was just an ignorant housewife. She didn't expect her to be so eloquent. It looked like she had underestimated her opponent. After coming out of the bar, Yi Siki's entire body was trembling. She was both excited and angry. This Bai Meiwei was too brazen. She was starting to wonder if this woman had deliberately arranged for old Lin to have sex with her after he got drunk. She was so angry. Yi Siki didn't return to the hotel directly. Instead, she went to a bar next to Zidiao. This bar was different from Zidiao. The music here was gentle and the atmosphere was relaxed. Couples sat in private rooms, their actions intimate as they whispered to each other. It was very heartwarming. She sat by the window with a belly full of anger. This was the second floor, so she had a good view of the bright lights outside. She could even hear the sound of the waves. There were no couples around her, so it was quieter. "Give me a glass of beer, thank you." The waiter brought the beer over. She drank half the glass in one go and slammed the glass on the table. Only then did her trembling fingers calm down. After calming down, Bai Meiwei's words were like a demon's voice that lingered in her mind. She couldn't help but admit that what she said made sense. Lin Shihao was arrogant. He wanted to make a career out of himself. She couldn't give him fame, fortune, or money. Although reason told Yi Siki not to let her imagination run wild, and to trust Lin Shihao a little more, there was still a small voice in her heart that said, Bai Meiwei is right. She has what Shihao wants. She can make Shihao happier. If Shihao doesn't need those things, then how can he explain lying to you that night at the bar with Bai Meiwei? What happened at the bar was like a thorn in Yi Siki's heart. It pierced her heart until it bled. She didn't know how many glasses of beer she had drunk. Anyway, when she realized that something was wrong, she was already lying on the table and couldn't get up. After getting drunk, her tear ducts seemed to be especially developed. She lay on the table and sobbed. Xiao Tianxing walked into the bar with a tall and handsome man. The man patted him on the shoulder. Tianxing, how is it? My bar is on par with your charm, right? Xiao Rui, I didn't expect you to really come to Sanya to open a bar. Didn't Uncle Xiao break your legs? Xiao Tianxing teased. He wanted to break my legs, but ever since he came to Sanya and saw my bar, he said he wouldn't care about me anymore. Xiao Rui laughed heartily. The two sat at the bar, and the bartender served them 2 glasses of beer. This place is very good. It's much more relaxed and comfortable than a city. No wonder you came here, and didn't want to go back. Xiao Tianxing raised his glass and clinked it with Xiao Rui's. It's rare that you're willing to come and see me. Stay for 2 more days. I'll take you out to sea tomorrow. Xiao Tianxing smiled. Okay. Xiao Rui raised his eyebrows. Oh right, there are so many beauties on the beach. Didn't you have 2 one-night stands? Xiao Tianxing held his glass and chuckled. Maybe it's because I'm old. I don't think it's interesting anymore. Xiao Rui exclaimed exaggeratedly. No way. Other than Ayun, you're the best at having fun among us. You actually think it's boring? Is it because it can't do it anymore? He stared at Xiao Tianxing's lower body maliciously. Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows and smiled evilly. Thank you for your concern. It is very good. Why don't you give it a try? Xiao Rui shrugged his shoulders. Forget it. I don't have that kind of hobby. Xiao Rui was from City A and was also Xiao Tianxing's friend in their circle. 2 years ago, he gave up his father's business and ran to Sanya to open a small bar. This time, Xiao Tianxing came to Sanya because he was invited by him. The two of them drank and chatted, laughing nonstop. Yi Siki was completely drunk. She lay on the table motionless. A well-dressed middle-aged man had been secretly observing her for a long time. About 10 minutes later, he saw that she was still lying on the table in the same position. He walked over, put his hand on her shoulder and shook it. Miss, are you okay? Yi Siki looked up shakily and giggled. Hubby. The middle-aged man was stunned. He grinned and revealed a strange smile. Honey, why are you drunk? Come, I'll take you home. Okay. Yi Siki opened her arms. Carry me. Okay, I'll carry you. The middle-aged man licked his lips and turned around. He bent down and squatted in front of her. Honey, come on up. Bam. A heavy body fell on top of him. He gritted his teeth, grabbed Yi Siki's legs and stood up. Because he was carrying someone on his back, he was extra careful when he went down the stairs. When he reached the lobby on the first floor, he suddenly couldn't walk. It turned out that Yi Siki was hugging the railing next to her and mumbling. Hubby, I'm so dizzy, put me down. Honey will be there soon. Bear with it for a while. The man tugged hard, but she didn't budge. Sweat broke out on his forehead. He panted and persuaded her. Honey Gigai, let go. We'll be home soon. No, I'm dizzy, put me down. Yi Siki didn't let go of the railing and shouted unhappily. This bar had always been a cozy one. There was no noisy singing and dancing, so it was quieter. Yi Siki's shout was especially eye-catching. Even Xiao Tianxing and Xiao Rui, who were sitting at the bar and chatting, noticed it. Let me down. I'm so dizzy. I want to vomit. Yi Siki hugged the railing tightly and struggled with her legs. The man was so anxious that he was sweating. He had no choice but to put her down. He turned around and hugged her. Honey, let me carry you. Hang in there for a while. We'll be back at the hotel soon. She covered her mouth in discomfort and nodded her head in confusion. The man hurriedly picked her up, regardless of the curious eyes of the people, hurriedly walked out. Suddenly, an arm grabbed his collar from behind. "Honey, what's wrong?" He thought Yisiki was throwing a tantrum again. Unexpectedly, a low and cold voice responded to him. "Who's your wife?" Welfare Songshu 566. When it got wet, the fabric wrapped around her body, outlining her beautiful figure. He was so angry that he didn't notice it. He was still scolding her. "You idiot. No wonder you're Xiaodong's friend. You're as stupid as her. No, you're even stupider than her. She knows she can't drink, but at least she'll drink when her friends are around. What about you? How dare you get drunk in an unfamiliar place? Do you have a death wish?" Cough cough. "It's so uncomfortable." Yisiki's nose got wet, and she couldn't stop coughing. She leaned against his broad chest and squirmed uncomfortably. "You're going to be the death of me." Xiao Tianxing lowered his head to look at her pitiful appearance. The anger in his heart subsided slightly. He turned off the shower and turned on the tap in the bathtub, intending to throw her into the bathtub. In the end, when he helped her into the bathtub, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. The wet fabric wrapped around her body. He could even see the color of her bra. Her perky breasts, slender waist, and long legs were all clear at a glance. He suddenly felt his body temperature rise. His throat was a little dry, and his heart felt like there were little worms crawling around. It was numb. He hurriedly got her into the bathtub and backed out of the bathroom. He took off his wet trousers and changed into a bathrobe. He called Xiao Rui over and said, "Bro, get a waitress to come over and help my friend bathe." Xiao Rui put his fist to his lips and coughed. He smiled mischievously and said, "Casanova, this is such a good opportunity. Why don't you do it yourself?" Xiao Tianxing smacked him on the head and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? She's Ahan's wife's best friend. She has a husband and a child. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll chop you up." "Enough, enough. I'm just kidding. Wait a moment. I'll arrange it." Xiao Rui quickly brought a pretty waitress over. The girl nodded at Xiao Tianxing, and then went into the bathroom to help Yisiki bathe. It was inappropriate for two grown men to stay here, so they went to the hall to have a drink. Half an hour later, the waitress came back and said that she had helped Yisiki change her clothes and helped her to the bed to rest. Xiao Tianxing patted Xiao Rui on the shoulder and said, "I'll go check on her." "Go ahead." Xiao Rui's smile was a little strange. Although his good friend had repeatedly emphasized that they were just ordinary friends, he could tell that Xiao Tianxing cared a little too much about Yisiki. Yisiki had indeed fallen asleep. She lay quietly on the bed, her delicate eyebrows slightly furrowed. Her face looked a little pale under the light. For some reason, Xiao Tianxing felt that she looked a little weak and pitiful. He stood by the bed for a while, and then took her handbag. He carefully opened it and found a hotel room card. They were staying in the same hotel on the same floor. He thought for a moment, and decided to take her back to the hotel in case little Nyonya woke up in the middle of the night, and found that her mother was gone. Who knew how frightened she would be? He wrapped her in a blanket and carefully carried her up. He walked to the hall and met Xiao Rui. He greeted him and said, "Xiao Rui, she's staying in the same hotel as me. I'll take her back to the hotel." Xiao Rui was shocked. "You're taking her back just like that?" Xiao Tianxing frowned. "What else can I do?" Xiao Rui face-bombed. "Come on. Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? If you go back to the hotel just like that, won't you be telling everyone that you're having an affair?" A man in a bathrobe carrying a woman wrapped in a blanket to a hotel. Could this matter get any more exciting? Xiao Tianxing looked down at himself and seemed to realize that something was wrong. He put Yisiki, who was wrapped in the blanket, on the sofa and said, "Give me a set of clothes." Xiao Rui snapped his fingers and a waiter came over. "Brother Xiao, what can I do for you?" "Take this gentleman to my room and get a set of clothes for him." Before Xiao Tianxing left, he glanced at Yisiki. "Keep an eye on her. Don't let her roll off the sofa." "I got it. Hurry up and go." Xiao Tianxing returned to the hall in a white shirt and black trousers. Even so, he still attracted a lot of attention when he carried Yi Siki back to the hotel. Fortunately, he was prepared and covered Yi Siki's face with the blanket. He took her back to her room and put her on the king-sized bed. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard Meng Yao's voice. "Hubby, don't leave me." Xiao Tianqing's heart was filled with complicated emotions. He hated her for not living up to his expectations, and a little bit of pity. Silly girl. Since he hurt you so deeply, why can't you bear to leave him? Xiao Tianqing sat at the head of the bed and looked at her pale face. He lowered his eyes and asked in a low voice. He was asking both her and himself. His fine eyelashes cast a faint shadow on his eyelids. She suddenly turned over and curled up into a ball to face him. She began to sob. Tears slowly flowed down from the corners of her tightly shut eyes. Her small nose twitched slightly, and her long eyelashes trembled slightly. She was like an abandoned kitten that was pitiful and lovable. He was stunned. Slowly, he reached out and placed his hand on her soft hair. He gently stroked it and said in a low voice, "Silly girl." The next morning, Yi Siki was woken up by Nyonyo. She opened her eyes. The sunlight was a little glaring, so she instinctively shielded her eyes. Nyonyo's tender voice rang in her ears. "Mommy, it's already 9 o'clock. Are you feeling unwell?" Yi Siki slowly opened her eyes and saw Nyonyo's worried little face. She smiled and said, "I'm fine, Nyonyo. Watch TV for a while. When Mommy is done washing up, let's have breakfast together." After the hangover, her head still hurt a little. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were swollen, her cheeks were pale, and her hair was messy. It was really terrible. She frowned and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Was she drunk last night? Who sent her back? She looked down and realized that the bathrobe she was wearing was not from the hotel. She slapped her forehead in annoyance. What happened last night? She didn't do anything wrong, did she? Her mind was in a mess. After she came out of the bathroom, she suddenly heard her cell phone ring. It was an unknown number. "Hello, who is this?" The man's deep and magnetic voice rang in her ears. "Yi Siki, I'm Xiao Tianqing. How are you feeling?" She frowned. "How do you know my phone number?" Xiao Tianqing snorted coldly. "If it weren't for me last night, you would have been abducted. Is this how you speak to your savior?" She was stunned. "Speak clearly. What's going on?" Xiao Tianqing's tone was filled with anger. "You were drunk last night and hugged a wretched old man and called him hubby. If I hadn't appeared in time, you would have been taken away by that wretched man. God knows what would have happened. Do you remember anything?" She couldn't believe it. After a while she muttered, "Is this true?" He couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Why would I lie to you? You're such a stupid woman. Were you the one who sent me back to the hotel last night? If not." His tone was very unfriendly. She hesitated and asked, "Then did you help me change into the clothes I'm wearing?" He raised his eyebrows. "Who else could it be? Come and see." Songshu 566. Chapter 274. Yi Siki suddenly flipped out. "Pervert, you're no different from that perverted uncle. Let me ask you, did you do anything to me?" Xiao Tianqing lazily dug his ear. "I think I already told you that I'm not interested in a married woman like you. Don't insult my taste." "Seriously?" Yi Siki gritted her teeth. "Since you're not interested in me, why did you help me change my clothes? You pervert." She couldn't wait to grab him from the other end of the phone and beat him up. Xiao Tianqing snorted. "You vomited all over me last night and dirted my clothes. You also made a mess of yourself. If I didn't change your clothes for you, did you want to keep those dirty things as a souvenir?" Yi Siki's cheeks slowly heated up. She vomited all over him? And made herself all over? She felt like she couldn't live anymore. However, this didn't change the fact that he took off her clothes. She bit her lip and said angrily, "It's my fault that I dirted your clothes, but it's also your fault that a man like you helped me change my clothes. Forget it, forget it. It's so boring. I'll admit it." Xiao Tianqing sighed. "It was a waitress who helped you change your clothes last night. I was just teasing you. It really wasn't you." It really wasn't me. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Rose Bar and ask the boss. He's my friend, and he was the one who called the waitress over for me. Yisiki was a little embarrassed. She scratched her head. You should have said so earlier. Well, I'm sorry. I was a little agitated just now. You want to dismiss me with just an apology? My enthusiasm to do good deeds has been dampened by you. In the future, if I meet drunk women who are abducted by perverted men, I might not even save them. Xiao Tianqing's tone was rather lonely and hurt. Okay. I sincerely apologize to you. Mr. Xiao, it's my fault. I judged you with my own yardstick. Please forgive me, okay? Buy me a cup of coffee and I'll forgive you. Sai, forget it. You don't even have this much sincerity. Yisiki clenched his teeth. All right, tell me the time and place. 4:00 in the afternoon at your hotel. I'll wait for you in the atrium. Take Nyo with you. I miss her. Yisiki was speechless. After a while he replied, okay. The atrium of this hotel was very beautiful, with pavilions, terraces and pagodas, small bridges and flowing water. At first glance, one would think that they had mistakenly entered a Jiangnan garden. The leisure area was surrounded by green trees and gurgling streams. Guests sat leisurely in groups of 2s and 3s, brewing a pot of green tea. It was incomparably pleasant. Yisiki held Nyo's little hand, crossed a small bridge, and found Xiao Tianqing sitting in the pavilion. He was wearing a beige casual outfit, flipping through a newspaper in his hand, and his movements were elegant and unrestrained. Uncle Xiao, Nyo was still outside the pavilion, but she called out sweetly with a bright smile on her face. Little Nyo, Uncle missed you so much. Xiao Tianqing put the newspaper aside, smiled, opened his arms and carried Nyo. He rubbed his face against her pink cheeks. Nyo, did you miss Uncle? Yisiki had goosebumps on his arms. He was too exaggerated. Nyo winked mischievously. No. Xiao Tianqing pinched her little face. You heartless little rascal. I won't take you swimming later. Nyo hugged his neck and acted coquettishly. Uncle Xiao, I miss you a little. Take me swimming later. Xiao Tianqing laughed heartily. Okay, if your mommy agrees, I'll take you there. Mommy. The little girl looked at her mommy pitifully. Let's go swimming later, okay? Yisiki snatched her daughter from Xiao Tianqing's arms. Nyo, we're going home tomorrow. We still have to pack our luggage later. Nyo raised a little finger, her eyes watery. Mommy, there's only 1 hour left. We can pack our luggage at night. It's not too late. Yisiki hesitated for a moment then said, okay. Mommy is the best. Nyo happily kissed her on the cheek. There was a small pond next to the pavilion. There were many goldfish in it, and a few children were leaning on the railing to feed the goldfish. Nyo wanted to go too, but Yisiki reminded her to be careful. She nodded repeatedly and ran to the pond with her short legs. Yisiki and Xiao Tianqing sat about 10 meters away from her. They could see her movements, and they looked up from time to time to ensure her safety. Thank you for last night. Yisiki took a sip of coffee. Xiao Tianqing looked at her quietly and said calmly, you can't hold your liquor well. Don't drink anymore. Yisiki blushed. I'll be more careful in the future. He took a sip of coffee and looked at Nyo, who was smiling brightly. He said, do you love your husband very much? Yeah. She didn't know why he suddenly brought up this topic. He suddenly turned his head and stared at her with his deep eyes. Even if he hurt you, you're still unwilling to leave him? She was stunned. After a while, she looked into the distance and said calmly, I used to think that I could leave. But later, I realized that even if he hurt me, I still can't leave him. He pursed his thin lips and said expressionlessly, if he doesn't turn back, what do you plan to do? She lowered her head. Her long eyelashes covered the sadness in her eyes. I don't know. I really don't know. He suddenly reached out his right hand and lifted her chin. It was supposed to be a frivolous action, but he did it so naturally. His expression was very serious. Yisiki, you idiot. Let me tell you that since you still love him, even if he doesn't turn back, you have to think of a way to make him turn back. She looked at him blankly. He slowly let go of his hand and said in a deep voice, Since you love him, take him back. From now on, you will have to fight a battle to protect your marriage. Her eyelashes fluttered, but she didn't say anything. He continued. Marriage is a matter between two people. You can't let him torment you alone. You have to work hard too. Aren't you very passionate and full of fighting spirit? Bring out your fighting spirit. Don't let Nyo live in an incomplete family. His words made her feel enlightened. She turned her head abruptly and glanced at Nyo. Her eyes gradually filled with determination. She nodded solemnly. You're right. I can't give up just like that. Xiao Tianxing's eyes welled up with a smile. Very good, Yisiki. Remember how you feel now. No matter what problems you encounter in the future, you have to think about how you feel now. Then tell yourself that you can solve it. Yisiki smiled. She picked up her coffee and said sincerely, Thank you. I'll toast you with coffee instead of wine. You're welcome. Xiao Tianxing also picked up his coffee and clinked his cup with hers. He took a sip of coffee, put down his cup, and asked, What happened last night? Unknowingly, Yisiki had already categorized Xiao Tianxing as a marriage counselor. Her trust in him had increased. Without much hesitation, she told him about Bai Meiwei's conversation with her and the contents of their conversation. Xiao Tianxing thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, You're right. Since Bai Meiwei came to you, it means that Lin Shihao didn't give her enough sense of security. In Lin Shihao's heart, you still hold a very important place. You can't give up. Yes, I won't give up. After his analysis, Yisiki suddenly felt more confident. Although it was difficult to say, she still decided to tell him the cause of the incident. She coughed and said in a low voice, Actually, my husband was drunk. He said he mistook Bai Meiwei for me. He said he didn't have any feelings for Bai Meiwei. I believed what he said before and forgave him. However, he lied to me that night at Seductive Charm. So I'm a little shaken. I don't know if I should believe him. Xiao Tianxing frowned. Why don't you ask him? Why did he lie to you? I am scared. Xiao Tianxing suddenly reached out and knocked her on the forehead. Idiot, you should ask him clearly about this. Who knows, there might be some misunderstanding between the two of you. She covered her forehead and stammered. All right then. I'll ask him when I get back this time, he smiled. That's right. No matter how deep the relationship between two people is, it can't withstand misunderstandings over and over again. Yisiki nodded. Suddenly, she stared into his eyes and asked, Why did you help me? Xiao Tianxing lowered his gaze. His lips curved into a cold smile as he said plainly, Because you're just like me. We're both idiots. She was puzzled. What do you mean? He suddenly looked up at her and revealed an evil smile. You're too stupid. You won't understand even if I tell you. She was furious. Hey, Xiao Tianxing, don't always attack me personally. He shrugged. I'm just speaking the truth. She snorted coldly. I'm stupid? I'm not stupid. Tell me the truth. Are you helping me because we're in the same boat and you've been hurt before? His careless smile froze. In his deep eyes, there was a desolation and vicissitudes that she couldn't understand. She regretted her blabbering and hurriedly said, I'm sorry. The corners of his lips slowly relaxed as he said plainly, It's all right. It's all in the past. It's not important. Although he said that it wasn't important, the complicated emotions in his eyes and the gloomy aura that he was exuding made her feel uncomfortable. The two of them were silent and the atmosphere was a little awkward. Yisiki coughed. And I'm just saying if I encounter any relationship problems in the future, can I ask you for advice? His thick eyelashes fluttered and the corners of his lips turned up. Of course you can. For little Nyo, I'll help you too. She grinned. Thank you. His eyes curved. Are you going back to City tomorrow? Yeah, my flight is tomorrow morning. What about you? In another 2 days. Don't worry, I'll contact you when I'm back. He smiled mischievously. Don't forget to make things clear to your husband. She cupped her fists and smiled teasingly. I got it, Teacher Xiao. He touched his chin. Since you called me Teacher Xiao, I've decided to give you another gift. What gift? Instead of answering, he asked. Do you have any plans tonight? Nope. That's good. Leave tonight for me. After little Ñoño falls asleep, come here and wait for me. I'm begging you. Make things clear. What do you mean by leaving tonight for you? He raised his eyebrows. Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. I won't have any bad intentions towards you. That's not what I meant. I just want to know what's going on. Isn't it good to leave some suspense? No matter what Yi Siki said, Xiao Tianxing was unwilling to reveal the truth. She could only let him be. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Yi Siki coaxed little Ñoño to bed early. She wore a pair of jeans and a white t-shirt to meet Xiao Tianxing. She thought that meeting a man at night would always be a little ambiguous and awkward. If she dressed up a little uglier, she would feel more at ease. Thus Xiao Tianxing, who was dressed in a suit and tie, saw Yi Siki like this. Bare-faced, shoulder-length hair, a pair of black-rimmed glasses, a pair of ripped jeans and a white t-shirt. The corners of his mouth twitched. He held his forehead with one hand and couldn't bear to look at her. Mrs. Lin, don't tell me that you dress like this at home too. The disdain in his words was very obvious. Yi Siki looked at his formal suit and tugged at her t-shirt. She chuckled. Actually, it's about the same. Xiao Tianxing looked pained. Mrs. Lin, I suddenly realized that I have a long way to go. It seems that I've given you the right gift tonight. Yi Siki followed him to the car park and asked curiously, Are you going to give me clothes? Xiao Tianxing turned to look at her. Am I such a superficial person? Ha! He glared at her in disappointment. Give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. With your looks, no matter how many beautiful clothes I give you, you won't be able to bring them out. Hey Xiao Tianxing, don't make personal attacks like that. Xiao Tianxing looked into her eyes with a serious expression. Objectively speaking, you don't lose out to Bai Meiwei in terms of appearance. But why does she look so radiant, while you look like a wife who has gone through hardships? Yi Siki lowered her head in shame. Xiao Tianxing felt that he had been too harsh with his words. He coughed and said, Actually, the way you look now is quite simple and natural. It's not bad. But you have to remember that men are visual creatures. Your husband has been looking at you for 8 years, so he might get tired of your beauty. You can't give up on yourself and become a haggard woman. You have to look radiant and reconstruct your beauty so that you can shine in front of him. Understand? Yi Siki looked up at him and nodded solemnly. You're right. It's good that you've thought it through. Xiao Tianxing smiled and opened the car door for her. Get in the car. Xiao Tianxing took Yi Siki to an image design center. The designer, Daniel, was a friend of Xiao Rui's. He was very enthusiastic about the two of them, and spent more than half an hour discussing how to remodel Yi Siki. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 275. That's right, that's it. This color suits her better. Aaron, bring me that pair of white high heels. In the brightly lit design center, a group of people were busy styling Yi Siki. After more than an hour of spa treatment, she was pushed to the hairstylist again. After that, 2 beautiful assistants brought different colors of clothes to her, and explained which color suited her best and how to match each color. Finally, they chose a small dress for her to change into. In the end, Daniel personally explained the makeup techniques to her, including which makeup was most suitable for her face and eyes. Finally, he let her use her own face as an experimental field. She did it over and over again until he was satisfied with it before he asked her to stop. After all this, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Xiao Tianxing walked out of the lounge and slowly tidied up his jacket. It seemed like he had just been woken up. Yi Siki stood in front of Xiao Tianxing nervously in her 10-centimeter high heels and stared at him. Xiao Tianxing, how is it? The petite woman in front of him had a head of neat and fresh short hair that completely made people forget her age. Her big, watery eyes were filled with uneasiness and nervousness. Her tender skin glowed seductively under the light. She was wearing a white dress with a circle of lace. The soft lace flowed elegantly with her movements, creating beautiful ripples. Xiao Tianxing was stunned. Then an undisguised look of admiration appeared on his face. Yi Siki, you look really good when you dress up. Yi Siki's cheeks suddenly turned red. He snapped his fingers. Daniel, please help her match some winter clothes. He did not forget that it was winter in City A. No problem. Yi Siki hurriedly said. One set is enough. It's not convenient to board the plane with too much luggage. Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows. I'll send you to the airport. Daniel, match 3 sets. Yi Siki whispered. I don't have enough money on my card. Xiao Tianxing also lowered his voice. Don't worry. Daniel said that he'll give you a 50% discount. Yi Siki calculated in her heart. A set of clothes cost nearly 10,000 yuan. In addition to the styling and spa expenses, even with a 50% discount, it would still cost more than 20,000 yuan. How heart-wrenching. Xiao Tianxing looked at her frowning face, coughed, and said in a low voice, Don't worry about money. Beauty also needs investment. Yi Siki gritted his teeth and said with a look of grief and indignation, All right, I'll go all out. Xiao Tianxing couldn't help but chuckle. When she went to the front desk to settle the bill, the beautiful receptionist Miss smiled politely and said, Mrs. Lin, your bill has been settled. Yi Siki turned to look at Xiao Tianxing subconsciously. Did Mr. Xiao help me? Yes. After Xiao Tianxing said goodbye to Daniel, he walked up to Yi Siki and said with a smile, Let's go back to the hotel and rest. Staying up late is a woman's natural enemy. Yi Siki glanced at him and didn't say anything. Then she looked at Daniel and nodded politely. Daniel, thank you for your hard work. Daniel smiled. You're welcome. Take care. Xiao Tianxing helped Yi Siki carry the 2 bags and got into the car. She sat in the front passenger seat. After the car started, she said, Mr. Xiao, give me your card number. When we return to City A, I will transfer the money to you for today's expenses. Xiao Tianxing glanced at her. No need. I said that this is a gift from Master to his disciple. But I'm not used to owing others money. Yi Siki said seriously. I'm very grateful for your help. This is already the best gift you can give me. Mr. Xiao, please give me your card number. It was rare to see a woman as serious as her. Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows and smiled. Okay, I already have your phone number. I'll contact you when I return to City A. The car drove into the hotel's underground parking lot. The 2 of them returned to the hotel together. The elevator reached the 7th floor. Yi Siki walked out of the elevator and said goodbye with a smile. Thank you for today. See you tomorrow. Xiao Tianxing smiled but didn't say anything. He followed her out of the elevator. Yi Siki looked at him in surprise. Do you live on this floor too? Xiao Tianxing smiled and said, Not only on the same floor. I live next door to you. What a coincidence. Yi Siki stroked the hair beside her ear. When they arrived at Yi Siki's room, she took out the room card from her handbag and opened the door. She turned her head and saw Xiao Tianxing standing at the door of the room next door. He had also opened the door. The 2 of them smiled at each other and said at the same time, Good night. The next day, after breakfast, Xiao Tianxing drove Yi Siki and Nyonyo to the airport. He helped her get her boarding pass and checked in her luggage. He squatted in front of Nyonyo with a gentle smile on his handsome face. Little Nyonyo, you have to listen to mommy on the road. See you later. Okay, thank you, uncle. The little girl smiled brightly and hugged Xiao Tianxing generously. Xiao Tianxing rubbed her hair, stood up and looked at Yi Siki. Have you called your husband? Yi Siki nodded. Yes, I've told him. He'll come to the airport to pick us up. He put his hands in his trouser pockets. He stood tall and handsome. Change into thick clothes before leaving the airport. It's already cold in a city. She smiled. Got it. Thank you. He lifted his chin in the direction of the security check. Hurry up and go in. It's almost time. Okay, goodbye. Yi Siki held her handbag with one hand and held Nyonyo's little hand with the other. Nyonyo, say goodbye to uncle. Nyonyo raised her pink little face and waved at Xiao Tianxing. Goodbye, uncle. Goodbye. For hours later, the plane landed at a city's airport. Before leaving the airport, Yi Siki changed her and her daughter's clothes. She dragged her suitcase and held her daughter's little hand as they walked out of the airport. Lin Shihao was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. He wore a black coat and stood in the crowd. His tall figure and gentle temperament made him stand out. Yi Siki came out of the passageway and saw him at a glance. He also saw the mother and daughter. His eyes were filled with surprise and amazement. Yi Siki had a head of fresh and beautiful short hair. Her rose-red coat was open, and she wore a white lace dress underneath. She also wore a pair of black suede boots. She was tall and slender, and her figure was exquisite. She was full of vitality, as if she were 10 years younger. Little Nyo was wearing a cute woolen hat, a pink cloak, black leggings, and a pair of camel-colored leather boots. She was dragging a very small red suitcase in her hand. She was as cute as a little princess. Daddy. When Nyo saw Lin Shihao, she threw her suitcase away excitedly and ran towards him. Lin Shihao strode forward and bent down to pick Nyo up. He kissed her delicate little face a few times. Nyo, did you miss Daddy? Yes, I missed you so much. Nyo hugged Lin Shihao's neck and refused to let go. Daddy missed you too. Lin Shihao quickly walked over to Yi Siki with his daughter in his arms. He reached out a hand and wrapped it around Yi Siki's shoulder. Ignoring the gazes around him, he calmly kissed her on the cheek. Honey, you're really beautiful today. Yi Siki smiled brightly and her eyes were full of joy. Hubby, you're very handsome today too. Why did you cut your hair? On the way home, Lin Shihao was still not used to her short hair, and turned to look at her from time to time. Yi Siki smiled and her beautiful eyes curved into crescents. I just wanted to change my style. Do I look good? He nodded. Yes, my wife is born beautiful. You'll look good with any hairstyle. The corners of her mouth curled up and she playfully blinked. Hubby, you're getting better at talking. You're making me so happy. Tell me honestly, did you do something wrong when I wasn't around? He raised his hand and patted her head. The smile in his eyes did not fade. I'm just telling the truth. In the 2 days that you weren't around, I was very obedient. I left early and returned early. I never stayed outside. Is that so? She raised her eyebrows and her smile faded a little. Of course it's true. He leaned over and kissed her cheek. Yi Siki could not help but push him. Watch your image. Lin Shihao did not mind. Instead, he hugged her tightly and said to the passerby who was peeking at them, This is my wife. The passerby smiled awkwardly and quickly walked away. Yi Siki could not help but laugh out loud. Nyo, who was lying in Lin Shihao's arms, giggled. Daddy, you're so naughty. Yi Siki pinched Lin Shihao's cheek. Look, you've led your daughter astray. Lin Shihao had an innocent expression on his face. He lowered his head and looked at his daughter. Nyo? Nyo covered her eyes with both hands. I didn't see anything. I really didn't see anything. Yi Siki was speechless. This father and daughter pair were really funny. At night, lying in bed, Lin Shihao reached out and pulled Yi Siki into his arms. He rubbed his chin against her soft hair and whispered, Wifey, are you tired? Yi Siki leaned comfortably in his arms. I'm not tired. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her lips. He said in a low voice, Since you're not tired, let's do something else. Her body started to tremble slightly. His lips were very soft as they rubbed against hers. She couldn't help but reach out to hug his strong back. He used the tip of his tongue to trace the shape of her lips. The numbing feeling made her cherry lips half open. His tongue slid in and gently and meticulously licked her mouth. He held the back of her head with one hand and unbuttoned her pajamas with the other. His slender fingers caressed her soft skin. It was boiling hot, and she could not help but tremble. He gently nibbled on her earlobe, his hands covering her soft pink body, kneading and pinching. His fingers pinched the red fruit, constantly picking it up and teasing it. Bursts of electricity flowed from his fingers. She couldn't help but raise her neck, sending her softness into his hands, hoping for more. He chuckled softly. Wifey, say you love me. His fingers mischievously rubbed against her secret area. Suddenly he exerted force and pushed in. She frowned and let out a moan of pain and pleasure. Wifey, say you love me. His hands moved faster. She could not help but clamp her legs together. Her voice was gentle and charming. "Hubby, I love you." With a ragged gasp, he held her close, replacing his fingers with his hot hardness and entering her. After a long while, he hugged her. A white light flashed through their minds and climbed to the peak at the same time. She leaned weakly against his chest. He kissed her forehead lovingly. After a short rest, he carried her into the bathroom. After washing her up, he carried her back to the bed. The two of them hugged each other and fell asleep. Ad. Songshu 566. Chapter 276. It had been 3 days since Su Yinqian jumped into the sea. The salvage team had yet to find her body. The Su family held on to their last hope. Madame Su burned incense and prayed to Buddha every day, hoping for her daughter's safe return. Su Bolin had aged a lot. In the dead of the night, he often sat alone in front of the window, blaming himself for being too harsh on his daughter, Su Jin, and had to take care of both his family and his company. There were dark circles under his eyes. However, on the 4th day, all their hopes were dashed. A tourist found a female corpse about 1 kilometer downstream from where Su Yinqian jumped into the sea. Due to the impact of the sea and rocks, the female corpse's face was disfigured. Her body was covered in wounds. The bones of her left hand and right foot were broken. 3 of her ribs were broken. Her body was swollen from being soaked in water. It was almost impossible to distinguish her face. However, the gold watch necklace on her neck exposed her identity. Opening the cover, there was a very small family photo. Su Bolin and Madame Su were sitting on chairs, each holding a child. Seeing Su Yunqian's body, Madame Su fainted on the spot. Su Jin held her tightly in his arms. Su Bolin staggered and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, the housekeeper supported him. A policeman took out a bag and handed it to Su Jin. "These are the remains of the deceased. We used the remains to identify the deceased. If the family has any questions, we can do a DNA test." Su Jin held the bag tightly and refused. No need. Their poor sister had already passed away. She should be buried in peace. How could they bear to disturb her? 2 days later, the Su family held a funeral. There were not many people who came to watch the ceremony. They were all close friends. Bailey's family was not present. Su Morong's family of 3 came. Su Xingchen wore a black trench coat and a black hat. The hat's brim covered her face with a veil. When they said goodbye to the body, Madame Su cried her heart out. Su Morong's eyes were also red. She went forward to hold her arm and helped her over from the coffin. After the ceremony ended, the people who attended the funeral gradually dispersed. The Su family also left in grief. Su Xingchen quietly stood in front of the tombstone. Her cold eyes, through the veil, fell on the photo on the tombstone. The corner of her mouth slowly hooked up into a strange arc. "Xingchen, let's go." Su Morong patted her daughter's arm, and Su Xingchen followed his parents out of the cemetery. The sun shone on them through the thick branches. Even so, the silent cemetery still gave them a gloomy feeling. Su Morong and her husband accompanied their daughter back to the hospital and stayed for a while before leaving. Su Xingchen threw the hat on the sofa, revealing her entire face. Although she had already undergone 4 plastic surgeries, her face was still very scary. Her eyebrows were bald, and her chin was covered with gully-like scars. In 2 days, she would undergo her 5th plastic surgery. The doctor said that this plastic surgery would implant her eyebrows, and at that time, her cheeks would look a lot better. Su Xingchen turned on the music. This was the first time she was so happy after being hospitalized. Su Yinqian had completely disappeared from her world. From now on, her only enemy was Xia Dong. Ha ha ha, just thinking about it made her feel good. Su Xingchen's wild laughter blended with the intense music. It was so strange that it made people shudder. Bailey Han's body recovered quickly. The stitches on his head had been removed, and he was discharged from the hospital in about a week. He handed over the company's matters to Bailey Jing and Lu Zihao, and became a hands-off boss. Every day he accompanied his wife and child. His entire temperament slowly changed. He became gentler and more patient. He enjoyed this kind of life. Every day when he opened his eyes, he could see Xia Dong lying in his arms. He leisurely ate breakfast, accompanied her to the garden, accompanied her to explore the ancient city, accompanied her to watch the sunrise and sunset, took care of Xiao Guai together. Every afternoon, he would call his family in China and video chat with them. While chatting with his family, Bailey Han and Xiaodong found out about Su Yunqian's death. Xiaodong's first reaction was to hold onto Bailey Han's hand. She tilted her head and looked at him, her eyes filled with worry. Bailey Han held her hand tightly and stroked her hair. He pulled her over and leaned her on his shoulder. Under the setting sun, the couple sat on the balcony in silence. She leaned in his arms and he stroked her long hair. After a long time, she slowly said, "Han, if you want to be alone for a while, He tilted his head and looked at her. His deep eyes melted with a touch of warmth. He said softly, "It's over. What happened between us is over. This kind of ending might be the best for her." Although he said that, Xiaodong could still tell that he was a little depressed. After all, he and Su Yunqian were childhood sweethearts. She had taken care of him during his most difficult times. Bailey Han seemed cold, but in reality, he was very affectionate. Xiaodong understood his feelings and was not jealous at all. She reached out her hands and hugged his waist tightly. She said softly, "Han, if you want to come back to China to attend her funeral, I won't have any objections." "There's no need." He kissed her forehead and whispered, "She hurt you so much. I haven't forgiven her yet." Xiaodong's heart warmed. She raised her head and kissed him on the lips. She smiled and said, "Let bygones be bygones. We must be good in the future." "Okay, we will be good." Bailey Han's eyes were filled with a smile. The smile gradually spread to his entire face. She raised her head and smiled like a flower. He scratched her little nose and said in a doting voice, "It's time for a walk. Let's go for a walk." "Ah, can we not go? I don't want to move." She hugged his arm and acted shamelessly. "No." His voice was gentle and there was a smile on his lips. "Little lazy worm, appropriate exercise is good for you and the baby. Be good and get up for a walk." "Okay." Xiaodong was a little reluctant to leave his arms and stood up slowly. Bailey Han chuckled and put a shawl on her shoulders. He held her waist and slowly walked out of the villa. The golden sunset shone through the gaps in the leaves. The mottled light jumped on the old bluestone road. They walked hand in hand along the Tiber River. The good times were sealed in their memories. "Sir, buy a rose for Madam." A little girl holding a big bouquet of roses ran to them. She had golden hair and a sunny smile. She was as cute as a doll. Xiaodong thought of Xiao Guai when she saw the little girl. She couldn't help waving her hand. The little girl smiled and walked closer. "Madam, you're so beautiful." Xiaodong chuckled. "Xiao Bao, you have a sweet mouth." The little girl blinked her big eyes and smiled innocently. "I'm telling the truth, sir. You're very lucky to be able to marry such a beautiful wife." "I think so too." Bailey Han smiled and took out his wallet. "How much is this bouquet of roses?" The little girl smiled brightly. 100 euros. Bailey Han took out 100 euros and handed it to her. He took the roses from her hands. "Thank you, sir." "Thank you, madam. I wish you happiness." The little girl bowed with a smile and ran away happily. Bailey Han put the roses in front of Xiaodong and smiled. "Honey, this is for you." Xiaodong raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Thank you, but please hold it for me." "No problem. I'm always at your service." Bailey Han pointed to his cheek. "Reward? Wow, you're so stingy." Xiaodong complained with a smile. She leaned forward and kissed him on the cheek. "Are you satisfied now, Mr. Bailey?" "I'd be even more satisfied if you kissed me here, Mrs. Bailey." Bailey Han touched his lips calmly. "In your dreams." Xiaodong rolled her eyes at him in amusement and took his arm. Bailey Han chuckled. He held his pregnant wife in one hand, and the roses in the other. They were very eye-catching as they walked on the road. Xiaodong felt that she was about to be burned by the envious and jealous gazes of the other women. She couldn't help but tug at Bailey Han's sleeve and said, "It's all your fault. Why are you so good-looking?" Bailey Han raised his eyebrows good-naturedly. "Is it my fault that I'm good-looking?" "Yes. Otherwise, why would you attract so many admirers?" Xiaodong puffed up her cheeks. Don't think that she didn't see the blonde beauty sitting on the bench over there. Why are you looking around? The handsome guy next to you is my husband. And those two beauties leaning against the bridge talking and laughing. Don't think that I don't understand Italian. Can you not praise my husband so loudly? Bailey Han pinched her chubby cheeks in amusement. I'm not angry. Why are you so angry? Xia Dong glared at him. What do you mean? Are you angry that I'm blocking your admirers? Bailey Han chuckled. He lifted her chin with his finger and gestured for her to look to the side. What's up with that wretched uncle looking at her lecherously? Also, what was up with that handsome blonde guy who was staring at her so intently? Wifey, even if you're pregnant, you're still as charming as ever. So, I want to stamp my seal to show that I own you. Bailey Han pulled her chin back. Under everyone's gaze, he kissed her lips. After tossing and turning for a while, he finally let go of her. She punched his chest in embarrassment. Bailey Han held her hand and whispered into her ear. Did you see that? The handsome guy over there has a heartbroken expression. Xiaodong stole a glance. It wasn't that exaggerated. He just shrugged his shoulders regretfully. Look, your market is much better than mine. I have to keep a close eye on you in case you run away with another handsome guy. Bailey Han nibbled on her earlobe playfully. A current ran through her body. Xiaodong couldn't help but tremble. She quickly pried his naughty mouth away and changed the topic. Hubby, I'm tired. Let's go home. Okay. Bailey Han chuckled. He ruffled her hair and wrapped his arm around her waist. They turned around and walked back. Under the setting sun, their shadows overlapped. It was harmonious and warm. At Songshu 566. Chapter 277. On the day of Su Yunqian's funeral, Mika Kito also appeared. Of course, he wasn't there to mourn Su Yunqian. Instead, he was there to see the tragic end of the person who hurt Xia Dong. He stood far away and waited for the crowd to disperse before walking to her tombstone. He looked coldly at the small photo on the tombstone and said in a deep voice, I don't believe in ghosts and gods, nor do I believe in reincarnation. However, if you want revenge, come at me. If you dare to cause trouble for Xia Xia again, I will bury the entire Su family with you. The cold wind blew and the leaves rustled, but he didn't seem to hear it. He stood tall and straight like a pine tree, looking as handsome as a god. Suzaku stood 10 meters away from him. The corner of her eyes moved slightly as she looked at his cold and handsome profile. It was as if it was carved out of marble, perfect and cold. She knew that he wasn't heartless, but he had given all his love to a woman. On the way back, the two of them sat in the Maybach. Mika Kito said indifferently, Is there any news from Godfather on Jiangdao's side? Suzaku replied, Not yet. Godfather hasn't contacted Su Xingqian recently. Should we take action? Mika Kito said in a deep voice, We can take action now. Now that news of Su Yunqian's death has spread, Godfather should be panicking. If he really cared about Su Xingqian, he wouldn't leave her in the lurch. Okay, I'll pass the message to Jiangdao immediately. Su Xingqian's 5th plastic surgery was relatively successful. However, the strange thing was that she didn't wake up 2 days after the surgery. Even if it was because of the anesthetic, the effects wouldn't have lasted for so long. Xia Zhenqing was about to go crazy. The attending doctor was also very anxious. He did a full body checkup for her, but didn't find anything wrong. Su Morong sat in the attending doctor's office with a deep frown. Doctor, my daughter still hasn't woken up. What's going on? The doctor looked helpless. We've already done a full body checkup on Miss Su, but we haven't found the problem yet. Su Morong's expression changed and she said sternly, Doctor, if anything happens to my daughter, it will be your hospital's responsibility. This is a medical malpractice. The doctor's forehead was covered in sweat. President Su, you can't say that. Miss Su's operation was very successful. This wasn't caused by the operation. Su Morong raised her eyebrows and looked angry. Then tell me, why is my daughter unconscious? She was in a coma during the operation and didn't wake up after the operation. If it's not your hospital's fault, then whose fault is it? This matter, We will investigate it thoroughly. President Su, the most important thing now is to wake your daughter up. The doctor tried his best to persuade the angry Su Morong. He also promised to quickly find the cause of Su Xingchen's coma and wake her up as soon as possible. But a promise is one thing, and the result is another. After another day, Su Xingchen still hasn't woken up. Su Morong has already planned to take the hospital to court. The attending doctor's head was about to explode. In the end, he didn't let go of any possibility and took Su Xingchen's blood for a blood test. Unexpectedly, there was a shocking discovery. They found that there was an unknown toxin in Su Xingchen's blood. It was very likely that this toxin caused her to be in a coma. Doubts arose. What is the toxin in her body? How did it develop in her body? How do they remove the toxin? In order to cure Su Xingchen, the hospital contacted people from the research institute and asked them to study the toxin in her blood, hoping to find a cure. At the same time, Su Morong received an anonymous letter. The letter said that Su Xingchen has been poisoned and can only live for 10 days. After 10 days, she will die in her sleep. If you don't want her to die, find Shengguan Ao for help. Shengguan Ao. When Su Morong saw this name, her body staggered and almost fainted on the ground. Fortunately, Xia Zhenxing's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast enough to support her. Xia Zhenxing helped her to the sofa. When she calmed down, he asked the question in his heart. Wife, who is this Shengguan Ao? Can he really cure Xingchen's illness? Su Morong's fingers tightly grasped the letter. Her eyes surged with a complicated look. After a long while she slowly said, You don't have to worry about this matter. I will handle it. Wife, shut up. Su Morong suddenly fiercely roared at him. Xia Zhenxing was startled. Although Su Morong's attitude towards him has been getting worse and worse over the years, she has never yelled at him so loudly. He opened his mouth and said with a dry voice, Okay, I understand. Su Morong didn't even look at him. She pushed his hand away and went upstairs. However, her back seemed to be a little flustered, as if she was hiding some secret. At night, Su Morong didn't go downstairs for dinner. Xia Zhenxing personally brought the food to the room. She picked up the bowl and threw it on the ground. She roared at him, I'm not eating. Get out, get out. The broken porcelain flew into the hallway and the rice spilled all over the floor. The servant quickly came in to clean up. Xia Zhenxing stood at the door for a moment before he turned around and went to the guest room. The servant quickly finished cleaning up and quickly left the room. He closed the door, afraid that Su Morong would vent her anger on him. In the spacious room, only Su Morong was left. She sat in front of the dressing mirror. The woman in the mirror was expressionless and her eyes were cold. After a long time, she got up and took down a painting hanging on the wall. A safe appeared on the wall. Then, she took off the necklace around her neck. The pendant of the necklace was a delicate and small key. She inserted the key into the keyhole of the safe. Click, the safe opened. There was a mahogany box inside. She opened the box. Inside was a stack of old photos and letters. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the photos. Every photo was a photo of her and a man. The man was in his 20s. He was handsome and had an unbridled face. He had a pair of pitch-black eyes that emitted an unruly light. This man was Shengguan Ao. She used her fingers to stroke him in the photo and whispered, 23 years. We haven't seen each other for 23 years. If possible, I really don't want to see you for the rest of my life. She painfully closed her eyes. Tears slowly flowed from the corners of her eyes. 6 days. Su Xingchen only had 6 days left to live. Su Morong didn't have time to think about anything else. The most important thing now was to contact Shengguan Ao. She bribed the newspaper to let them publish a love poem. That love poem was written by Shengguan Ao. She didn't know if he would see this poem, but she had no other choice. She could only use this method to hint to him. Su Morong anxiously waited for a day, but didn't get any news. Xia Zhenxing couldn't hold it in any longer. Wife, there are only 5 days left. How can we contact that Shengguan Ao? Su Morong impatiently said. You don't need to worry about this. You're responsible for communicating with the hospital and urging them to research the antidote as soon as possible. Xia Zhenxing opened his mouth, but didn't say anything in the end. He silently went to the guest room. Ever since Su Xingchen was disfigured, the two of them slept in separate rooms. Su Morong laid on the bed, but couldn't fall asleep. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, she suddenly heard a sound from the window. She quickly sat up on the bed and turned on the bedside lamp. She saw a black figure jump in from the window. The person took off the mask on his face and slowly walked towards the bed. Su Morong used her right hand to cover her mouth. Her eyes widened in disbelief. That face was very familiar. It was Shangguan Ao. Shangguan Ao, also known as her godfather, walked to her side with his slender legs. His tall and straight body was like a pine tree. There was a faint smile on his face. Arong, long time no see. The word Arong made Su Morong's tears fall like rain. She tightly clenched her fist and suppressed her sobs. Shangguan Ao stared at her for a long time. Suddenly, he sat beside her and reached out to pull her into his embrace. He gently said, "Arong, how have you been all these years?" "Good." Su Morong squeezed the words out from between her teeth. "Very good." Shangguan Ao hugged her tightly and sighed softly. "Arong, you still hate me. All the time." Su Morong's eyes were red as she gritted her teeth. His body stiffened. After a moment he said softly, "I thought that you would never want to see me again in this lifetime." She sniffled and tears welled up in her eyes again. However, she tried hard to suppress them. Her voice was hoarse as she said, "I originally planned to never see you again, but this time, I have no choice but to see you." Xingchen. Something happened to Xingchen. Shangguan Ao's body trembled. He suddenly raised his head and stared at her. What happened to Xingchen? Su Morong pushed him away and moved back a little. She said, "Someone poisoned her. Within 10 days, if there is no antidote, she will die in a coma. Now there are only 5 days left. On the 4th day of her coma, that person sent me a letter." After she finished speaking, she took out a letter from the bedside table and handed it to Shangguan Ao. Shangguan Ao hurriedly read the letter. His face turned ugly. Su Morong said indifferently, "Is it your enemy?" Shangguan Ao's fingers suddenly tightened around the letter. He said in a low voice, "Yes." "Do you have a clue?" "I suspect that it's Mikakito." Su Morong's eyes narrowed. Mikakito. Xingchen's scandal and drug addiction were also related to him. That's not all. Xingchen's disfigurement was also caused by Mikakito's subordinates. Shangguan Ao's eyes were as cold as a venomous snake. He said eerily, "I originally wanted to avenge Xingchen, but I didn't expect to be one step behind and lose everything. This time, I was even checkmated by him." Su Morong frowned. Mikakito's motive is very obvious. He wants to use Xingchen to force you out. What should we do now? Shangguan Ao's lips curled into a cold smile. He knows that I care about Xingchen, so he's using her to force me. Naturally, I can also use the people he cares about to force him. Su Morong's eyes moved slightly. But Xia Dong is overseas. Shangguan Ao looked at her and smiled. Arong, other than Xia Dong, there's someone else he cares about. Su Morong frowned, then relaxed. I understand. He stared into her eyes. There was a complicated look in his eyes. He said gently, Arong, thank you for giving birth to Xingchen. Su Morong was stunned. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Shangguan Ao leaned over and hugged her. Her personality is very similar to yours. Every time I see her, I feel as if you're by my side. Su Morong's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. You promised me that you wouldn't disturb her life after she was born. I lied to you. He rubbed his chin against her hair and whispered, Not only did I get close to her, but I also took her as my goddaughter. I really want her to call me daddy one day. Her voice was hoarse. Shangguan Ao, you didn't keep your word. You promised me. Arong, don't be agitated. I didn't tell her the truth. I really want to know if she looks like you or me. After seeing her, I can't control myself anymore. I really want to see her smile at me and act coquettishly. Arong, it's been 23 years. We haven't seen each other for 23 years. Don't hate me anymore, okay? She shook her head in tears. That's impossible. Shangguan Ao, I hate you. My life has been ruined by your hands. Arong, I'm sorry. Shangguan Ao held her face and kissed her eyes. He kissed away the tears on her face. Let go of me. She struggled hard, trying to push him away. His hands were like iron pincers, imprisoning her tightly. Shangguan Ao, let go of me. She shouted sternly. He suddenly kissed her lips and blocked her scolding. He kissed her fiercely and pressed her onto the big bed. She clenched her fists and pounded his chest, making dissatisfied sounds in her throat. He turned a deaf ear to her. His nimble tongue fiercely swept her mouth, making her almost unable to breathe. His hand reached under the silk nightgown and caressed her chest. Although she had entered the ranks of middle-aged people, her body was well maintained. Her skin was full of elasticity and her chest was firm and soft. He kneaded her pink chest hard and his other hand reached between her legs. She glared at him angrily and pounded him with her fists. He suddenly let go of her lips and bit her earlobe while saying softly, Arong, I miss you. I miss you so much. If I could choose again, I definitely wouldn't let go of you. Her body froze and her resistance stopped. She stared at him in a daze. His deep eyes were filled with pain. Arong, I love you. I've always loved you. Her tears poured out again. He lovingly kissed her eyes and carefully licked away the tears. His hands gently moved around her sensitive areas. She gradually gave up resisting and in a daze, she hugged his neck with both hands. He took off his clothes with one hand and threw them on the ground. He straightened his body and entered. Soon, the room was filled with lewd sounds and ambiguous sounds of men and women. Fortunately, the room's soundproofing was good. No matter what tricks they played, no one would find out. About 2 hours later, Su Morong was already unconscious from exhaustion. Shangguan Ao kissed her forehead and placed her on the bed. He got up and put on his clothes. He looked back at her deeply and jumped out of the window, quickly disappearing into the night. Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 278. Many cars were parked at the entrance of Imperial Kindergarten. Many rich madams, grandpas, and grandmas were waiting for their children at the school entrance. A black Cadillac was parked closest to the school entrance. Through the half-open window, 2 men in black suits could be seen sitting in the back seat. The school bell rang. A group of children walked out of the school entrance. When the parents saw their children, they waved and called their children's names. The children quickly ran towards their parents, creating a lively scene. The people sitting in the Cadillac stared at the school entrance seriously. After about 10 minutes, when the crowd had dispersed, 2 little guys wearing the same clothes and carrying the same small backpack leisurely walked out of the school entrance. Move! Someone in the car shouted. 2 men in black suits quickly opened the car door and ran to the 2 children. They each picked them up and returned to the car at an extremely fast speed. The car sped off. Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi were carried in the arms of the 2 men. Xiao Bao's dark eyes turned and looked at Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi was also looking at him, and the 2 of them smiled at the same time. Xiao Bao looked up and sized up the man who was carrying him. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and he looked a little like Crayon Shinchan. Uncle Shinchan, where are you taking us? The man's thick eyebrows furrowed. What did he mean by Uncle Shinchan? He said in a deep voice. Little brat, if you are obedient, we won't hurt you. Oh. Xiao Bao blinked, tilted his head and asked, Uncle Shinchan, is this kidnapping? Little brat, if you continue to be long-winded, I will seal your mouth. The man with thick eyebrows was already a little impatient. Children were troublesome, so he did not like to kidnap children. Xiao Bao quickly covered his mouth with his small hands. He blinked pitifully and said vaguely, I won't be long-winded, Uncle Shinchan. Please don't seal my mouth. Humph. The man with thick eyebrows sneered and ignored him. Xiao Yi quietly scanned the interior of the car. Including her and Xiao Bao, there were a total of 5 people, a driver and 2 kidnappers. The man who was hugging him was expressionless. He looked dull, but his eyes were very sharp, hiding a murderous aura. Xiao Yi poked his arm. Uncle Woody, can you put me down? Your arm is hurting me. Uncle Wood. The blockhead's eyebrows moved imperceptibly. His thin lips lifted as he said indifferently, "Between my arm and the rope, you can choose whichever one you like." Xiaoyi looked confused. "Uncle Woody, I don't understand what you mean." The blockhead lowered his head and stared into his eyes. "It means that if I put you down, I have to tie your hands and feet with a rope. Do you understand?" Oh. Xiaoyi nodded vigorously. "I understand. It's uncomfortable to have my hands and feet tied up." "Uncle Mutu, I'll have to trouble you to carry me," the driver suddenly said. "Lao Sha, cover the eyes of these two brats." The man with thick eyebrows coughed and said, "There's no need. They're not even 5 years old. They don't know anything." "Just in case. These two brats are not ordinary children. They're very smart." "All right then." The man with thick eyebrows called Lao Sha took out 2 strips of black cloth from his pocket. He held one for himself and handed the other to his companion. "Muzi, this is for you. Tie it up for the brats." Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao burst into laughter at the same time. Xiao Yi rubbed her stomach that was hurting from laughing and said intermittently, "Muzi, Uncle Woody, this name suits you so well." "Shut up." Muzi, who was ridiculed by the 2 brats, was so embarrassed that he flew into a rage. He slapped Xiao Yi on the head. Xiao Yi burst into tears. Her howling was so loud that it made people's eardrums buzz. Xiao Bao's eyes were covered by a black cloth by Lao Sha. Although he couldn't see, he immediately burst into tears when he heard Xiao Yi's cries. It was as if he was infected. One child crying was bearable, but 2 children crying at the same time was like a demon's voice. It almost drove the 3 men in the car crazy. The veins on Lao Sha's forehead throbbed. He shouted, "Stop crying. If you cry again, I'll immediately throw you into the river to feed the fish." "Wah wah wah." Damn it, they cried even louder. The driver frowned and raised his voice. "Lao Sha, Muzi, seal the mouths of these 2 brats." Lao Sha and Muzi immediately tore off the tape and sealed the children's mouths. The crying stopped abruptly, and the 3 men finally heaved a sigh of relief. The 2 brats' eyes were covered with black cloth, their mouths were sealed with tape, and their cheeks were stained with tears. They looked like they had been kidnapped. An hour later, the group arrived at an abandoned factory. Lao Sha and Muzi took the 2 children out of the car, grabbed them by the back of their collars, and dragged them into the factory. On the 2nd floor of the factory, the godfather stood by the railing in a black coat. He stared coldly at the hall downstairs. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao's hands and feet were tied, and they were each tied to a chair. Their mouths were covered with tape, and they were making whimpering sounds from their throats. The black cloth was wet with tears, and they looked very pitiful. The godfather waved his hand coldly, and Lao Sha nodded. He tore off the black cloth covering the children's eyes, revealing 2 pairs of big, watery eyes. Then, he tore off the tape on their mouths, and the stinging pain made them scream. Xiao Bao cowered in fear and said pitifully, "Uncle, you said you wouldn't hurt us. Let us go home quickly." Xiao Yi stared blankly at the ground in front of her, as if she was scared silly. The godfather's lips curled into a sinister smile. Previously, he had heard that Bailey Han's 2 sons were very smart, and he thought that they were very impressive. Now it seemed that they were just ordinary children. They would be scared and cry when they were kidnapped. That was exactly what he wanted. Lao Sha squatted in front of the children, and a kind smile appeared on his face. "Your name is Xiao Yi, and your name is Xiao Bao, right? Xiao Bao, I heard that you have a good relationship with Mika Keto. As long as you call him and ask him to come and pick you up, Uncle will let you go home, okay?" Xiao Bao looked at Lao Sha pitifully with her big, watery eyes. "Uncle, will you keep your word?" Lao Sha said confidently, "Of course. Uncle never lies to children." Xiao Bao nodded in Gigai's direction. "Uncle, give me your phone. I'll call Uncle Shun." "What a good child." Lao Sha rubbed his hair in satisfaction. Muzi handed over a cell phone. Xiao Bao moved his tied hands and said with a frown, "Uncle, hand." Lao Sha smiled and said, "It's okay. Tell Uncle Mika Kito's number, and Uncle will call it for you." Xiao Bao hesitated for a moment before saying, "Okay then." He said a string of numbers, and Lao Sha pressed the number on the cell phone. After the call was connected, he pressed the speaker button and put the phone to Xiaobao's ear. Xiaobao sniffed and said aggrievedly, "Uncle Shen, it's Xiaobao." Mikakito's gentle voice sounded. "Xiaobao, what happened?" Xiaobao started crying. "Uncle Shen, two very strange uncles carried Xiao Yi and me into the car and took us to a very strange place. Our hands and feet are tied. Come and take us home quickly." Mikakito's voice suddenly rose as she asked nervously, "Xiaobao, are you hurt?" Xiaobao shook his head. "No, Uncle Shen didn't hit us." "Oh no, Uncle Mu Shen slapped Xiao Yi." Lao Sha frowned, took the cell phone and put it to his ear. "Mikakito, you heard it. Xiaobao and Xiao Yi are in my hands. If you don't want them to get hurt, give Su Xingqian the antidote immediately. Once I hear that Su Xingqian has woken up, I will let them go home." Mikakito said coldly, "Give the phone to Godfather. I want to talk to him." Lao Sha raised his head and looked in Godfather's direction. Godfather nodded. He was not worried that Mikakito would delay the call to locate the location of the communication, because he had already installed a jamming device in the cell phone to ensure that the signal would not be tracked. "Wait a minute." Lao Sha ran to the second floor and handed the phone to Godfather. Godfather said calmly, "Mikakito, if you don't want anything to happen to the two children, do as my people say. I have already sent people to the hospital. Su Xingqian will wake up in an hour and tell me the location of the children. I want to ensure their safety. Tell you the location so that you can bring a large number of people to kill them? Mikakito, don't be so naive. I will tell you the location after I receive a call from Xingqian and confirm that she is safe." Mikakito said in a low voice. "How do I know that you won't cheat me?" Godfather chuckled. "Then you can only believe that I won't cheat you. All right, that's all. I will call you in an hour to confirm Xingqian's situation." Before Mikakito could reply, he had already hung up the phone and tossed it to Lao Sha. "Look after the two children." Lao Sha knew that he was going to leave. He lowered his voice and asked, "Godfather, what should we do when Miss wakes up?" Shangguanao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He raised his right hand and quickly made a chopping motion. His intention was clear. Kill. Even if they could not kill Mikakito directly, they could torture him by killing the people he cared about. Lao Sha nodded in understanding and turned to look at the living room downstairs. The two children had their backs to them and did not know that their fate had already been decided by them. Footsteps could be heard as Godfather walked down the stairs step by step. Xiao Yi, who had been silent all this time, suddenly raised her head and said, "I want to pee." Xiaobao said, "I want to pee too." Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 279. Brats, you're so troublesome. Lao Sha grumbled as he bent down to remove their pants. "Take off your pants and pee here." Xiao Yi shouted. "No. I'm a boy, and I can't pee here. I want to go to the toilet." Xiaobao also shouted. "I want to go to the toilet too." Lao Sha was getting a headache from their quarrel and waved his hand. "Muzi, bring them to the toilet." He does not believe that these two brats can come up with any tricks. Muzi untied them from the chair and untied the ropes around their ankles. She grabbed one child with each hand and walked towards the toilet. The Godfather turned a blind eye to all of this. In his heart, little Wingzy and little Treasure were just two ordinary children who would cry out in fear. There was no need for him to pay attention to them. He strode towards the car parked outside the factory. Bang! A bullet flew toward the Godfather at lightning speed. He reacted quickly and pulled Lao Sha over to use him as a shield. The bullet pierced Lao Sha's chest and stayed in his body. His eyes widened in disbelief when he saw Mikakito, Suzuku, and the rest. Blood flowed out from his chest, and his body slowly fell to the ground. Bang! Bang! Gunshots rang out. Lao Sha had been used as a human shield by the Godfather, and his chest was riddled with holes. His eyes widened unwillingly as he breathed his last. The Godfather fought back with a pistol in one hand and used Lao Sha's body as a shield in the other. Two other assassins in black suits covered him. The group quickly retreated into the factory. After entering the factory, they quickly lowered the big iron gate to block the powerful firepower for a while. Quick! Bring the children over. The godfather ordered. One hitman ran towards the toilet while the godfather and another hitman guarded the entrance. Muzi had just led the children into the toilet when he heard the sound of gunfire. He knew that something was wrong and stopped the children from peeing. Instead, he grabbed their arms and dragged them outside. Little Wingsy coldly said, "Stupid blockhead, I've tolerated you for a long time." Muzi instinctively turned around and heard a gunshot. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. The moment he fell to the ground, he saw a black figure jumping in from the window with a gun. "Jiang Dao, untie our hands." Xiao Bao stretched out his hands when he saw the black figure. Jiang Dao kicked away the pistol beside Muzi and shot him in the head. Then he quickly untied the ropes on the two children's wrists, picked them up one by one, and handed them out of the toilet window. Someone was waiting for them outside. Everything happened too fast. When the godfather's hitman arrived, all he saw was a corpse. Before he could react, a cold gun was pointed at his head. Jiang Dao slowly walked out from behind the door and asked in a deep voice, "How many people are there in the factory?" 6. Jiang Dao's eyes flickered. He already had an idea. That meant that there were only 3 survivors left in the factory. He slapped the back of the hitman's neck and the latter fainted on the ground. Jiang Dao reported the situation in the factory to Beitang Shen through the intercom. Then he quietly moved his feet and walked towards the hall. At the same time, 2 more bodyguards jumped in through the window of the toilet and followed behind Jiang Dao to surround the godfather and the others. When the godfather realized that something was wrong, Jiang Dao's group of 3 was already less than 50 meters away from him with guns pointed at their chests. "Put down your guns!" Jiang Dao barked coldly. The godfather's face suddenly changed. He still wanted to fight back, but suddenly, he heard a loud bang. The iron gate was knocked open by the car. The assassin next to him did not have time to dodge, and was thrown to the hard wall by the car. After his body hit the wall, he was bounced to the cement floor. His blood was all over the ground. He did not even have the chance to make a sound before he died. Lu Xing pushed the door open and got out of the car with a pistol in her hand. Mikakito and Suzaku walked side by side at the entrance. His tall figure exuded a strong murderous aura. His deep eyes were cold and filled with bloodlust. He slowly walked towards the godfather with an oppressive aura. He stood 2 meters away from the godfather and said coldly, "Shengguanao, we meet again." At this time, the godfather was already surrounded by people. He straightened his back, as if he didn't notice his current situation at all. He smiled slightly. "Beitang Shen, it's good that you're ruthless. I want to know how I lost." Mikakito waved her hand, and footsteps could be heard at the entrance. Then Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao walked in slowly. They didn't look scared at all. Xiao Bao raised her chin arrogantly with a smug smile on her face. Xiao Yi, on the other hand, stood straight with a faint smile on her handsome face. Xiao Bao glanced at the godfather in disdain and said, "Grandpa, you seem to look down on children." Xiao Yi chuckled and said, "Uncle Shen knew that you would do something bad to us, so he installed a tracker in our shoes. You were so careless that you didn't check our things. You really look down on children." A hint of regret flashed across the godfather's eyes. He was indeed too careless. Xiao Bao chuckled. The wily old fox actually fell into the hands of 2 children. That must be a terrible feeling. Xiao Yi patted him on the shoulder and said seriously, "Xiao Bao, the old fox is regretting it so much that his intestines are turning green. Don't provoke him anymore." The godfather suddenly laughed out loud. After a few laughs, his laughter stopped abruptly. He stared at the 2 children viciously. "You think you're smart, but you were used by Mikakito." Xiao Yi stared at him coldly. "If you're referring to the trap that we set for you, we did it willingly. It has nothing to do with Uncle Shen at all. You've miscalculated if you want to drive a wedge between us." Xiao Bao snorted. "Old fox, it's useless for you to say anything now. You're going to be in trouble soon. Xiao Yi, let's go. The scene later will be bloody, And it's not suitable for children under the age of 18 to watch. Yes, that's right. Let's go. The two little guys put their arms around each other's shoulders and left as if they were good brothers. The godfather looked at Mikakito and smiled. Mikakito, what are you going to do with me? Mikakito was expressionless as she said indifferently, I can give you a chance to live. Condition? Who's Su Yunqian's backer? The godfather smiled. Even you can't find out, so how would I know? Mikakito, if you want to kill me, just kill me. I've already seen the woman I love the most. My death is worth it. A man's words are kind when he's about to die. Can you promise me something? You want me to let Su Xingqian go? That's right. Xingqian is innocent. I was the one who hurt Xiaodong. You can target me alone. Let her go. Mikakito pursed her lips. If I'm not wrong, she's your biological daughter. The godfather paused. How do you know? Other than him and Su Morong, no one else knew about this, including Xingqian herself. Mikakito sneered. You're cunning, cold-blooded, and heartless. You don't care about other people's lives, but you care about Su Xingqian. You're even willing to take risks for her. Other than this, I can't think of any other reason. The godfather sneered. Cunning, cold-blooded, and heartless. These two words describe you. Mikakito, you're indeed powerful, but like me, you have a weakness. My weakness is Xingqian, and your weakness is Xiaodong and her children. When you don't have a weakness, then you'll be an invincible god of war. What a pity. Mikakito said indifferently. I never wanted to become a god. What's the point of living for a person without emotions? It was because of some people that his life became colorful. It was because of some people that he cared about. He enjoyed this feeling. The godfather sighed. A complicated look appeared in the godfather's eyes as he sighed. You've seen through things very clearly. Unfortunately, I didn't understand this when I was younger. I thought that I would be able to achieve greatness if I stopped loving and focused all my attention on my career. I did, but the older I get, the more regret I feel. I really want to fulfill my responsibility as a father. Beitangshan, please let Xingqian go. Mikakito looked at him calmly. I can let her go, but you have to give me something in exchange. The godfather said without hesitation. You've destroyed most of my power in a city, but the information network is still there. I'll give it all to you. Also, I have a few properties and a sum of money in my bank account. I can give it all to you. Beitangshan waved his hand. Words are no guarantee. I've already prepared the contract. Sign it. The godfather didn't expect him to have it all planned out. He smiled bitterly and glanced at the contract. He didn't rush to sign it. I'll sign it when the hospital tells me that Xingqian is safe. Mikakito raised his eyebrows and didn't object. A few minutes later, the godfather's phone suddenly rang. He looked at the caller ID and quickly pressed the video call button. Xingqian. Su Xingqian's bandaged face appeared on the screen. Godfather, I'm fine now. The godfather's eyes welled up with tears. He nodded repeatedly. It's good that you're fine. Xingqian, let me take a good look at you. Godfather, don't cry. I'm fine now. The godfather wiped his eyes. I'm happy. Xingqian, I'm going abroad for a while. Take care of yourself. Listen to your mommy and tell her that I love you. Su Xingqian was stunned. Godfather, you know my mommy? Yes, we used to be old friends. Su Xingqian bit his lip and asked. Godfather, when are you coming back? Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 280. I might not be back for a long time. Xingqian, take care of yourself and your mommy. You're a big girl now. Don't make your mommy sad, okay? Su Xingqian's heart surged with an uneasy feeling. Godfather, did something happen to you? The godfather smiled. It's nothing. I'm fine. Xingqian, that's it. I'm hanging up. Okay. Godfather, have a safe trip. You have to take care of yourself too. I'll miss you a lot. Remember to contact me when you're overseas. The godfather choked out, okay. His fingers trembled as he hung up the phone. Mikakito said calmly, you can sign the contract now. The godfather took a pen and signed the contract. After he handed the contract to Jiang Dao, he calmed down and said calmly, "I'm done. You can do it." Mikakito waved her hand. Jiang Dao suddenly attacked and hit the godfather on the back of his head. The godfather fell to the ground. 2 bodyguards came forward and carried the godfather out of the factory. They threw him into the trunk of the car. Jiang Dao bowed and asked, "Boss, what do you plan to do with him?" Mikakito's eyes were cold. "Throw him to Africa to keep old K company. It would be too easy for him to die so easily." From then on, the godfather disappeared from a city's underworld. His remaining power was taken over by Mikakito. Su Murong and Su Xingqian never saw the godfather again. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao were whispering to each other. After Mikakito got into the car, she stretched out her hand and snorted. "You 2 little things. Didn't I tell you not to act rashly? Why did you run out of the school gate and let the godfather catch you?" Xiao Bao blinked her beautiful big eyes. Her expression was innocent and cute. "Uncle Shen, we did it to catch the godfather. Look, we succeeded. Don't be angry." Mikakito ruffled his hair helplessly. "What if he hurts you? You 2 troublesome little bastards." "It's okay. Look, we're fine now." Xiao Yi smiled fawningly. "If godfather really wants to harm us, don't we still have you, Uncle Shen? You're not allowed to act on your own in the future." Mikakito scolded them with a straight face. The 2 brats had no idea how nervous she was when she found out they were kidnapped. The 2 little guys looked at each other and nodded in unison. "Yes, yes. From now on, we will be obedient to Gigai and won't act on our own. I hope you keep your word." Mikakito felt a great deal of pressure facing these 2 highly intelligent kids. In the evening, during the video call with Xia Dong, the 2 little guys danced around and recounted what happened during the day. At the end, the 2 brothers proudly raised their little chins. "Mommy, Daddy, we're awesome, aren't we? We helped Uncle Shen defeat Godfather." Xia Dong broke out in a cold sweat. Bailey Han patted her back comfortingly and scolded with a straight face. "How could the 2 of you do such a dangerous thing?" Xiao Bao said aggrievedly, "We already calculated the time." "There won't be any accidents." Xiao Yi pouted. "Godfather intends to use us to threaten Uncle Shen. Before he achieves his goal, he won't do anything to us. Yeah, and it's useless for us to pretend to be scared. Godfather won't take us seriously and won't hurt us on purpose." Yes, that's right. Daddy, you're worrying too much." This time, not only was Bailey Han angry, but Xia Dong was also furious. She said angrily, "Do the 2 of you think you're so great and that you've calculated it well? Don't you know that there's a saying, it's better to be safe than sorry? If the kidnappers beat you up, cut off your limbs, or even blind you, what would you do? If your Uncle Shen didn't arrive in time, the 2 of you would have been shot. Do you know that?" Xia Dong almost roared at the end of her sentence, and tears welled up in her eyes. Bailey Han quickly pulled her into his arms and gently patted her back. "Honey, don't be agitated. Be good and take a deep breath." Xiao Bao panicked and said pitifully, Mommy, I'm sorry. Don't be angry. We won't do it again." Xiao Yi bit her lip and was about to cry. "Mommy, don't be agitated. It's not good for the baby in your stomach. We'll be obedient in the future." Bailey Han's face darkened and he took out his father's authority. "Xiao Yi, Xiao Bao, you have to take this as a warning. If you do it again, I'll punish you very severely." The 2 brothers said sullenly, "Oh," and then looked at Xia Dong carefully. "Mommy, don't be angry." Xia Dong lay on Bailey Han's chest and ignored them. Bailey Han stroked her hair and said to the 2 little guys, "Mommy's in a bad mood today. I don't want to talk to you for the time being. You 2 should rest early." The 2 brothers were like frosted eggplants. They drooped their heads and said, "Goodbye, Daddy and Mommy." Then they turned off the video. Bailey Han tightened his arms and said softly, "Honey, don't be angry. I've already taught them a lesson for you. They probably won't be able to sleep well tonight." Xia Dong snorted through her nose. It's good that they can't sleep. Otherwise, they won't learn their lesson. Although she said that she was angry, she was actually more worried. She was worried that they would become more and more self-assertive and difficult to control. In a situation where they didn't have the ability to protect themselves, they still put themselves in danger. Xia Dong couldn't wait to drag them in front of her and spank their little butts to teach them a lesson. Okay, I don't know who they took after. Bailey Han stroked her hair. Although he said this with a smile, there was an imperceptible worry in his eyes. It seemed that after returning to China, he would have to send them to a secret base to learn martial arts. Without the ability to protect themselves, it was always worrying. Of course they took after you. I'm not that stupid, Xia Dong said angrily. Bailey Han chuckled. Is that so? Why do I remember that someone was very stupid and put herself in danger several times? For example, that time when she was trying to help a lost little girl find her mother. She was tricked into going to the ladies' room and was kidnapped. Another example. Xia Dong hurriedly covered his mouth. Okay. I know I'm stupid, okay? Bailey Han's eyes were full of smiles. He pulled her hand away and lowered his head to peck her rosy lips. He said in a low voice, Honey, it's time for lunch break. Do you want me to carry you to bed? As her belly grew bigger, she became more and more lazy. If she could lie down, she wouldn't sit, and if she could sit, she wouldn't stand. Bailey Han would tease her from time to time, saying that the baby in her belly must be a little lazy worm. Carry me. Xia Dong stretched out her arms and hugged his neck, rubbing against his chest comfortably. His right hand went around her waist and carried her steadily. He walked towards the bed step by step with great care. His eyes were slightly lowered and his long eyelashes covered his eyelids. There was a gentle smile on his sexy thin lips. She couldn't help but reach out and touch his eyelashes. She whispered, Hey, why are your eyelashes so long and thick? They seem to be longer than mine. She was so jealous. Bailey Han stopped in his tracks and smiled helplessly. Honey, if you like, I'll let you touch me as much as you want after I put you on the bed. How about that? Okay. Yigai retracted her hand. She was very easy to talk to. Good girl. He chuckled. His hands tightened as he walked to the bed and gently placed her on it. He stroked her hair. Whose poem do you want to listen to today? She thought about it seriously and smiled. I don't want to listen to you recite poems today. She patted the spot beside her. Sleep with me. Okay. He lay down beside her, close to her and hugged her. His chin rested on her hair, and his hand held hers. Their fingers intertwined, and they slowly landed on her bulging belly, gently rubbing it. She looked up at him. As expected, a pair of gentle and smiling eyes met hers. She grinned and reached out her other hand to touch his face. Close your eyes. He closed his eyes as he was told. She carefully touched his eyelashes and sighed. So beautiful. He chuckled softly. His magnetic voice sounded happy and gentle. Xia Dong didn't sleep very well. With her bulging belly, it was difficult for her to turn around, and she could only maintain one position. Every time she impatiently moved her body in her sleep, Bailey Han would gently hold her and help her turn around. They repeated this several times every night. Her skin was as white as snow in his arms. Her spaghetti strap nightgown would occasionally slip off the shoulder straps, revealing her fair skin and deep cleavage. She was still unaware. In her sleep, her little hands would unconsciously touch him. All of this was seducing him. Every night, when he saw her soft little hands grabbing his clothes and her pink lips slightly open as she slept soundly, his heart would throb. He wanted to be impulsive, but in the end he desperately suppressed that desire. He could only relieve himself by kissing her. So every morning, when Xia Dong woke up, she would find many suspicious marks on her neck or chest. The child was already more than 6 months old. Her legs had begun to swell. At night, Bailey Han would sometimes hear her faint moans in her sleep and his heart would ache. He quietly got up and gently kneaded her swollen legs. From her legs to her toes, he didn't let go of any part of her. He even specially consulted a masseuse and learned a few massage techniques. Every day, he would massage her regularly, which greatly reduced the pain of pregnancy. Every time, Xia Dong would lean into his arms and praise him contentedly. Hubby, you're so good. Bailey Han would kiss her forehead tenderly. He couldn't imagine the pain she suffered when she was pregnant with the triplets. He wanted to make up for that missing relationship, so no matter how much he did, he always felt that it wasn't enough. Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 281. The sky was clear and the sun was warm. Bailey Han accompanied Xiaodong for her prenatal checkup. He drove while she sat in the passenger seat. Along the way, she stole glances at him from time to time. She bit her red lips and loosened them. He noticed the slight hesitation between her eyebrows. He smirked. "Honey, do you have something to say to me?" Xiaodong twisted her fingers. She hadn't mentioned her illness to him since he came to Italy. Should she tell him now? Forget it. She didn't want to tell him now. He was driving. It would be dangerous if he got agitated, Xiaodong chuckled. Actually, it's nothing. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows and didn't ask further. If she didn't want to tell him, he wouldn't force her. The doctor in charge of Xiaodong's checkup was Terence, the most famous doctor in the obstetrics and gynecology department. He was in his 40s, had blonde hair and blue eyes, and had a gentle personality. He would also be her midwife. Terence flipped through her medical records and compared the results with today's checkup results. He smiled gently. "Madam, good news. The fibroid in your uterus is slowly shrinking. If the situation develops well, the fibroid may disappear automatically." Bailey Han's eyes suddenly narrowed and his face darkened. However, because of the occasion, he didn't say anything. His hands were tightly clenched into fists. "Really?" Xiaodong was pleasantly surprised. "Then what do I need to do?" "Maintain a happy mood, exercise appropriately, and cooperate with the treatment. The rest depends on God's arrangement." Terence shrugged. There were many cases of fibroids being cured without treatment, but it was the first time he had seen a malignant tumor like Xiaodong's that had shrunk without treatment. Coming out of Terence's office, Bailey Han exuded a gloomy aura. He held Xiaodong's waist with a sullen face. She looked at him carefully, held his arm and said, "Honey, let's talk." Bailey Han stopped in his tracks and stared at her with his deep eyes. His heart was filled with all kinds of complicated emotions. In the end, he still suppressed his emotions. He replied and helped her to sit on the sofa in the living room. Xiaodong bit her lip and said in a low voice, "I had a prenatal checkup 2 months ago and found that I had uterine fibroids." "Why did you hide it from me?" he asked in a low voice. She raised her head and looked at him. "Your brain was affected by a foreign object at that time, and your memory was unstable. I didn't dare to provoke you with these things." He stared at her deeply, and many images flashed through his mind. Among them, he had temporarily lost his memory and hurt her. He had even told her to abort the child and divorce. He hugged her tightly. "Honey, I'm sorry. It's all my fault." "No, it's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. Look, I'm getting better now. As long as I persevere, everything will get better." She patted his back gently. He felt sorry and guilty. He gently stroked her long hair and said in a low voice, "You didn't want to provoke me because you were sick, so you left, right?" She replied softly and chuckled. "Hubby, no matter what happens to me, you'll always be by my side, right?" "Of course," he answered firmly. "That's enough, isn't it? You'll always be by my side. We'll overcome all the difficulties together. Don't worry about the past." She raised her head and looked at him with smiling eyes. His hands on her shoulders tightened. His Adam's apple bobbed, and his eyes were filled with deep affection. She understood and smiled brightly at him. "Honey, it's all thanks to you that my condition is getting better. Because you've made me feel so happy during this period of time. Thank you for making me so happy." Bailey Han knew that she wanted to use this method to dispel the guilt in his heart. The corner of his lips slowly curled up, and he patted her head. "Honey, thank you. You're welcome." Xiaodong smiled playfully and reached out to pat his head. His hair had already grown green roots and was a little prickly. Even if he had such a special hairstyle, he was still the most handsome in her eyes. Naughty. Bailey Han's eyes were full of smiles as he scratched her perky nose. Xiaodong also pinched his nose and tilted her head to ask, "Handsome, can we go home now?" "Yes, madam." Bailey Han held her right hand like a gentleman and kissed the back of it. The two of them looked at each other and smiled faintly. He held her waist and walked out of the hospital. When they reached the entrance of the hospital, Bailey Han suddenly stopped in his tracks. Xia Dong was puzzled. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer but squatted down. She wanted to see what he was doing, but her bulging belly blocked her view. She felt his hands fiddling with the back of her feet for a while. She was still confused, but he had already stood up and chuckled. "The shoelace is untied." She was stunned and had an indescribable feeling in her heart until he held her hand. "Honey, let's go." "Okay." He supported her and walked step by step very seriously. She looked up at his side profile. From this angle, she could see his sharp chin and straight nose. The originally hard lines on his face looked incomparably gentle because of the smile on his lips. She suddenly felt a surge of warmth in her heart as she stared blankly at him. He suddenly turned his head and smiled helplessly. "Honey, pay attention when you walk. If you want to look, I'll let you look as much as you want when we get home." She blushed and mumbled, "I'm not looking at you." His eyelashes fluttered happily, and he readily accepted her advice. "Yeah, you're not looking at me. I'm thinking too much. But it's better to pay attention when you walk." He didn't dare to imagine how she survived when she was pregnant with the triplets. How could he not worry about a little woman who was even distracted when walking? She pursed her lips. "I know." He chuckled softly. As time passed, Xia Dong's condition slowly improved, but Xiao Guai's condition wasn't optimistic. Due to the effects of the chemotherapy, her beautiful hair had all fallen out. Her pink little face had become as pale as a sheet. Her skin and mucous membranes were bleeding from time to time. Her body and limbs often had large patches of ecchymosis or blood spots. The bleeding from her gums was also more serious. Sometimes when the nurse fed her food, she would even vomit 1 or 2 mouthfuls of blood. In the sterile ward, Xiao Guai's small body lay in the middle of a pile of tubes. Her wrist was hooked up to an 4 drip, and the medicine in the medicine bottle flowed slowly into her body through the tubes. Xia Dong and Bailey Han wore protective clothing and sat by her bed. Xia Dong held her cold little hand, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Mommy." She opened her eyes slightly, and a dazed smile appeared on her pale little face. "Daddy. Daddy is here." Bailey Han strode forward and squatted by her bed. He wrapped his warm hands around Xia Dong's and Xiao Guai's hands. "Gigai, we're here. Don't be afraid." Xiao Guai had been tormented by her illness for a long time, but she was sensible enough not to cry in front of her parents. According to the caregiver, she had once heard her sobbing quietly under the blankets at night. However, at this moment, her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. Her small nose twitched, and her voice was hoarse. "Mommy, Daddy, I miss brother and brother-y. Will I never see them again?" Xia Dong's eyes were brimming with tears. She bit her lip and forced herself to hold them back. Bailey Han held their hands tightly and said gently, "Gigai, you'll be fine. Daddy will bring your brothers over to visit you tomorrow, okay?" Xiao Guai grunted in a nasal voice and said intermittently, "Yesterday Susan, who was in the ward next door, was pushed away. The nurse said that she went to heaven. Susan said that she wanted to celebrate my birthday with me. Boo-hoo." Her tears were like beads on a broken necklace that kept falling. Susan was an 8-year-old girl who was very cute. She had leukemia, and because they couldn't find a bone marrow match, she couldn't undergo surgery and passed away yesterday. It was no wonder Xiao Guai suddenly lost control of her emotions. She was afraid that she would be like Susan, suddenly losing her breath. Xia Dong bit her fist hard as tears rolled down her face. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and her shoulders trembled violently. She wanted to comfort Xiao Guai, but she couldn't calm her emotions. "Mommy, don't cry. The baby in your stomach will cry too." Xiao Guai weakly reached out her small hand and carefully wiped away the tears beside her eyes. Bailey Han put his arm around Xia Dong's shoulders. His eyes were also shining with tears as he softly comforted the sad mother and daughter. Xia Dong's eyes were still red when they came out of Xiao Guai's ward. She sat on the sofa in the hall and calmed herself down before they walked into the doctor's office. The doctor said that Xiao Guai's condition was out of control, and she needed to undergo surgery as soon as possible. It would be best if it could be done within a month. Xiaodong roughly calculated the time. She was now 7.5 months pregnant. With 3 more weeks, it would be just right for a C-section. She looked into the doctor's eyes and begged, "Doctor, no matter what, please help my daughter hold on for 3 more weeks. After 3 weeks, we can perform the surgery." Bailey Han said in a low voice, "Doctor, we're counting on you." The doctor nodded seriously and said, "Don't worry, I'll do my best." Bailey Han said, "I've already contacted my friends in the United States. They've introduced a special drug. This is a new drug that has just been developed in the United States. It's said to be very effective. I want you to give it to my daughter." He took out a photo from the United States and handed it to the doctor. After the doctor looked at the photo, he said, "I've also heard about it, but there's no such drug in Rome for the time being. Moreover, the hospital hasn't used this drug before. I don't know if it will cause side effects." Bailey Han said, "I've also considered this risk, so I specially invited a doctor in the United States who has used this drug before. He'll arrive in Rome in 3 days. If you take the drug under his guidance, it will be much safer. Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 282. The doctor was silent for a moment and then said slowly, "Okay, I agree with your request." After leaving the hospital, Xiaodong received a call from the butler of the Castle of the Night. "Miss, Master invites you and Mr. Bailey to the castle for dinner tonight. Is it a special occasion tonight? Young Master Holly is bringing a friend home." Xiaodong's eyes flickered. Is it his girlfriend? Holly was a famous playboy. It could be said that although he had many girlfriends, he had never brought them back to the castle and introduced them to his family. It's said to be a female friend. The butler laughed heartily and was in a good mood. Xiaodong also laughed. "Then I must go and see what kind of woman Holly likes." The butler smiled and asked, "Miss, do you need a car to pick you up?" "No, we'll drive there ourselves." The Castle of the Night was rarely so lively. Night had just fallen, and the lights in the entire manor were lit up. The bright lights enveloped the ancient castle, just like the stars surrounding the moon. Against the backdrop of the night, it looked even more luxurious and charming. The Rolls-Royce stopped outside the main gate of the castle. A servant immediately stepped forward and bent down to open the car door. Bailey Han supported Xiaodong as they walked up the stairs step by step, and into the magnificent main hall. As soon as they reached the door of the living room, Holly greeted them with a bright smile on his handsome face and his arms open. "My dear Xia, you're so charming tonight." "Holly, you're very handsome tonight too. Where's your mysterious guest?" Because of their stomachs, they couldn't hug each other as usual. Instead, they shook hands. Holly smiled and leaned to one side. Xiaodong found that there was a beauty standing behind him, an Asian beauty. This Asian woman was tall. Xiaodong was considered tall among women, but she was half a head taller than Xiaodong. Wearing high heels, she should be about 1.75 meters tall. She was wearing an ink Jiangnan Chongsam. Although it was black and white, it made people's eyes light up. The perfectly tailored plain brocade Chongsam perfectly outlined her graceful curves. Her pair of watery eyes were slightly smiling, and her delicate facial features were elegant and charming. Her fair skin was so fair that it could be broken with a flick of a finger. Under the reflection of the luxurious crystal lights, she was so elegant that she looked like a woman who had walked out of an ink painting. Holly smiled and introduced, "Xia, this is my friend, Shui Ruyan. Ruyan, this is the one I mentioned to you before. She's my adopted sister, Xiaodong. The one beside her is her husband, Bailey Han." Shui Ruyan, as her name suggested, was as gentle and beautiful as smoke. She smiled gently, revealing 2 dimples on her lips. "Hello, Mr. Bailey, Mrs. Bailey." Bailey Han nodded coldly in response. Xiaodong smiled. "Hello, Miss Shui." Shui Ruyan was very elegant. Her every move showed that she came from a prestigious family. Her every frown and smile had the unique charm of an Asian woman. In the dining room, the marble floor, The gorgeous chandelier, the shiny silver cutlery, the exquisite food, and the mellow red wine made the banquet look perfect. At the table, Holly was humorous and witty, making Tomac laugh heartily. Shui Ruyan didn't talk much until Holly brought the topic to calligraphy and painting. Coincidentally, Tomac was especially fond of China's calligraphy and painting. He admired her attainments in this field. Tomac didn't hide his admiration. "Miss Shui, you're so young, but you know so much. It's rare." Shui Ruyan smiled. "I've made a fool of myself. My father is an antique dealer, so I've been interested in this field since I was young. I was influenced by what I saw and heard, and gradually learned some superficial knowledge." Tomac was interested. "Can you tell me what you do for a living?" She smiled. "I'm an appraiser for an auction company. I'm responsible for appraising China's antiques and paintings." Very good, very good." Tomac nodded his head and looked at Holly with a smile. He praised the latter for turning over a new leaf and making such a girlfriend. After the banquet ended, everyone sat in the living room and chatted. Xiaodong discovered that the relationship between Shui Ruyan and Holly wasn't ordinary. Although they didn't do anything intimate, their eyes, expressions, and some small movements were shockingly similar. Only people with a close relationship would have this kind of similarity. Tomac also noticed it, and his mood became more and more cheerful. Before Holly and Shui Ruyan left, he specially asked the housekeeper to bring an antique vase and gave it to Shui Ruyan. Shui Ruyan politely declined and he smiled. "Ruyan, this vase has a good shape. You can take it and play with it." Shui Ruyan glanced at Holly. Seeing him nod his head, she accepted it and thanked him with a smile. Tomac saw this and liked her even more. She knew how to respect Holly's opinion. She was a very smart girl. Shui Ruyan politely bid farewell to everyone. Holly personally put the shawl on her shoulders. She held his arm, and the two walked out of everyone's sight. Holly's car drove out of the castle. Tomac looked at Xiaodong and smiled gently. "Xia, what do you think of Shui Ruyan?" Xiaodong smiled. "Smart, beautiful, and knows when to advance and retreat. She also has Holly in her eyes. I think she's quite good." Tomac nodded. "I think so too. Ahan, what do you think?" Bailey Han looked indifferent. "She looks too perfect. It makes her seem unreal. I don't like it." Tomac's expression froze. He coughed and said, "Maybe she's perfect." Bailey Han smiled. "There's no perfect person in this world. More or less, everyone has some flaws. It's because of these flaws that they have flesh and blood." Tomac was touched by his words and fell into deep thought. Xiaodong smiled and said, "Maybe it's because I'm not perfect, so I admire those who look perfect. Let's not talk about other aspects. Miss Shui's personality is quite good. Holly should get along well with her." Tomac sighed. "I hope Holly is serious this time. He's not young anymore. It's time for him to start a family." "Godfather, don't worry. I think Holly has matured a lot." Xiaodong comforted him. "Yeah, that's why I'm so happy about him." After chatting for a while, Xiaodong and the others said goodbye. On the way back to the villa in the car, Xiaodong sighed. "Shui Ruyan is really beautiful and elegant. I'm quite supportive of her being with Holly," Bailey Han said in a serious tone. "She's not as beautiful as you, and she doesn't have your elegance." Xiaodong's face darkened. "Hubby, don't go against your conscience and praise me. I'm telling the truth. She's like a doll. She lacks personality. You're the best." Although Xiaodong felt sweet from his praise, she was still curious. "Hubby, it seems like you don't like her. Why? Don't all men like beautiful women?" Bailey Han's eyes darkened. "There's something about her that's similar to Su Yinqian. It's hard for me to like her." Xiaodong didn't expect that Su Yinqian would say something like this. She was stunned for a moment before carefully comparing them. Su Yinqian was elegant and noble while Shui Ruyan was elegant and refined. Although they were two different people, they did have some similarities. For example, they both came from rich and powerful families. They both had good manners and elegant manners. However, it was still a bit far-fetched to reject Shui Ruyan just based on these. He said again, "Honey, who told you that all men like beautiful women?" She came back to her senses and raised her eyebrows. Why? Am I not a beautiful woman? Bailey Han chuckled. In my eyes, of course you're the most beautiful. However, it's not true that all men like beautiful women. If you really love someone, you only love her as a person and not her appearance. Even if she's no longer young and beautiful, my love for her won't change. He turned to look at her with a burning gaze. Her face was a little hot. She coughed. Hubby, focus on driving. He sighed. Honey, you really know how to ruin the atmosphere. She covered her mouth and snickered. She had to admit that his confession was very effective on her. Bailey Han didn't lie to Xiao Guai. He really arranged everything and brought Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao to Rome. After the Bailey family's private jet landed, the two brothers, wearing identical clothes, walked out of the plane and appeared in front of Bailey Han and Xia Dong. Dad, Mom. Xiao Bao ran over with his short legs while Xiao Yi walked over calmly and unhurriedly. Bailey Han bent down and picked them up, one on each side with a gentle smile on his face. Xia Dong also wanted to hug them, but with her big belly, she couldn't do it. She could only pat their heads and smile. Babies, are you tired? We're not tired, the two answered in unison. Xiao Bao stared curiously at Xia Dong's belly. Mom, the baby is already so big. Is it hard for you? Xia Dong smiled and ruffled his hair. It's not hard. The baby is very obedient and rarely torments me, just like the three of you. Xiao Yi said seriously. Mommy, we won't make you angry anymore. Xiao Bao nodded hurriedly. Yes. We've already deeply reflected on the matter with Godfather. This is what men should do. I'm very proud of you. Bailey Han put them down on the ground with a proud look on his face. The two brothers were embarrassed and giggled. Bailey Han chuckled. Let's go. We're going to the hospital to see Gigai. On the way to the hospital, the family of four laughed nonstop. The two little guys had stored a lot of things in their stomachs that they wanted to say to their parents. Now that they had the chance, they couldn't stop talking. Only when the car arrived at the hospital did they quiet down. Thinking about Xiao Guai's current condition, their hearts became heavy. Add Xinwu 799. Chapter 283. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao almost couldn't believe their eyes. Was the little girl on the hospital bed, tortured by her illness, really their adorable little sister? Their noses turned sour, and tears welled up in their eyes. They clenched their fists at the same time, and bit their lower lips tightly. However, no matter how hard they tried to suppress it, they couldn't suppress the urge to cry. Their tears fell pitter-patter. Xiao Guai lay weakly on the bed. Her eyes opened slightly, revealing a look of pleasant surprise. A smile slowly bloomed on her lips. Brother-y. Her voice was a little hoarse. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao quickly ran to her side. Xiao Bao carefully stroked her pale little face and tearfully said, Gigai, it's us. We're here. Xiao Yi gently held her cold little hand. Tears glistened in her eyes as she softly said, Gigai, don't be afraid. We'll always be with you. Xiao Guai held Xiao Yi's hand tightly and smiled faintly. I'm so happy. Brother-y, I'll get better, right? Xiao Bao nodded vigorously. Yeah, right. You'll definitely get better. Xiao Yi bit her lip. Gigai, we still have to go to kindergarten together, primary school together, middle school together, and university together, so you'll definitely get better. Xia Dong looked at the three children. They were all holding back their tears. They were clearly very sad, but they were still comforting each other. They were so sensible that it made her heart ache. Unknowingly, her tears had blurred her vision. Suddenly, she was pulled into a warm embrace. Bailey Han gently wiped her tears and comforted her softly. Wifey, it's okay. Gigai will definitely be fine. Don't be sad. She nodded with tears streaming down her face. Yes, she couldn't be sad or agitated. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for the baby and it would affect her condition. She had to be strong. Bailey Han comforted his wife and children. It took him a lot of effort to calm everyone down. After Xiao Guai fell asleep, the family of four came out of the ward and waited for the elevator. When the elevator door opened, Holly and Shui Ruyan walked out. Shui Ruyan was carrying a flower basket. Xia Dong was slightly taken aback. Xiao Bao shouted excitedly, "Uncle Holly!" "Hey Xiao Bao, when did you come to Rome?" Holly hugged Xiao Bao and happily rubbed his little face. Xiao Bao was tickled by the stubble on his chin and frowned. "I just arrived today. Uncle Holly, are you here to visit Xiao Guai?" "Yes, I brought my friends to visit Xiao Guai. I was so excited that I forgot to introduce them." Holly placed Xiao Bao on the ground and smiled at Shui Ruyan. "Ruyan, this is Xia Xia's youngest son, Xiao Bao. This is Xia Xia's eldest son, Xiao Yi." As he spoke, he patted Xiao Yi's head and smiled. "Xiao Yi, you can also call me Uncle Holly." Xiao Yi nodded politely. "Hello, Uncle Holly and Auntie. Good girl." Shui Ruyan had a faint smile on her face. Her gaze lingered on Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao for a few seconds before turning to Xia Dong and Bailey Han. "Mr. Bailey, Mrs. Bailey, I heard from Holly that Xiao Guai is sick, so I wanted to come and see her. I hope I won't disturb you." Xia Dong smiled. "Miss Shui, thank you for your concern. But Xiao Guai just fell asleep." Shui Ruyan said considerately, "Then let's take a look outside the ward. Don't go in and wake Xiao Guai. Holly, what do you think?" Holly smiled gently. "Okay." Xia Dong and her family of 4 accompanied them to the door of the ward. Shui Ruyan looked through the glass window and saw Xiao Guai's current appearance. Her expression was a little sad and her eyes reddened. Her beautiful eyes had tears in them. When she saw Xia Dong looking at her, she smiled embarrassedly. "Sorry, I forgot myself." Holly thoughtfully held her slender waist and explained to Xia Dong. Ruyan's younger sister died of leukemia when she was very young. When she saw Xiao Guai, she couldn't help but think of her younger sister. Shui Ruyan forced a smile. "My younger sister was only 6 years old when she fell sick. I was only 8 years old, but I always remember how she looked when she was seriously ill. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned this. I believe that Xiao Guai will definitely get better." Xia Dong smiled kindly. "It's okay, don't worry about it. Thanks to your auspicious words, Xiao Guai will definitely be fine." Shui Ruyan smiled faintly. "Yes, Xiao Guai is so cute. God will bless her. Holly and I have something to do, so we'll take our leave first." "Okay, if you have time, you can come to our house to play." Shui Ruyan winked playfully. "Okay, it's rare to meet Chinese people in Rome. I won't be polite." Everyone went downstairs together. Bailey Han and Holly's cars drove out of the hospital's parking lot one after the other. Bailey Han's villa was only 2 streets away from the hospital. Soon they parted ways with Holly. Holly glanced at the car that turned into another road and chuckled. "Baby, why did you suddenly want to visit Xiao Guai?" Shui Ruyan turned to look at him. 2 faint smiles bloomed on her beautiful face. "Darling, I know you like Xiao Guai a lot. As your girlfriend, of course, I have to love her too." Holly smiled. "You know how to please people." Shui Ruyan reached out to pinch his handsome face and said coquettishly, "What's wrong? Don't you like her?" "Of course not, I like her a lot." He took the opportunity to hold her hand and kissed her fair and slender fingers. She smiled sweetly and her eyes revealed a different kind of flirtatious expression. "I'll make you like her even more." Her hand landed on his thigh and gently rubbed it like a feather. His light blue eyes suddenly narrowed and his seductive thin lips curved into a mesmerizing arc. His voice was low and magnetic. "Little vixen, don't ignite the fire." She chuckled softly. Her laughter was like a silver bell. He suddenly stepped on the brakes and the car stopped by the side of the road. Before she could react, he had already pulled her into his arms. His sexy thin lips kissed her lips fiercely, and their fiery breaths passed between each other. He sucked on her tongue and bit her lips. He hugged her waist with one hand and slid the other under her skirt. His nimble fingers wandered along her thigh to the inner side of her thigh. Her body was trembling from excitement, and her slender fingers followed his movements and grasped his clothes tightly. "Ah!" His fingers teased her and she couldn't help but moan. She hugged his neck with both hands and nibbled on his earlobe gently. Her voice was so soft and seductive. "Darling, not here." Their car was parked by the roadside and had already attracted the attention of the traffic police. She glanced from the corner of her eye and saw a male traffic police walking over. although the tinted windows prevented the people outside from seeing what was happening inside. She still didn't want to put on a show in front of everyone. Holly's fingers stiffened, and there was a seductive smile on his sexy lips. Darling, do you know how beautiful you look right now? I want to let others see how beautiful you are right now. Ah, no. Darling, I was wrong. Her cheeks were red and her eyes were misty. She seemed to be obsessed and in pain at the same time. He kissed her red and swollen lips and said in a low voice, "Beg me." Her body trembled, and she was almost defeated by his actions. Her voice was gentle and seductive. "Darling, I beg you. Good girl." He kissed her lips in satisfaction and slowly pulled his fingers out. At the same time, the traffic police knocked on the car window. Holly ignored them and took out a tissue. He wiped his fingers elegantly and wiped the liquid off his fingers bit by bit. Knock knock. The knocking on the window became louder. He slowly took off his suit jacket and put it on Shui Ruian's shoulders. Shui Ruian blushed and used the jacket to cover the mess on her body. "Sir, please get out of the car." The traffic police knocked on the window again. Holly pressed the button and the window slowly lowered. He looked at the traffic police expressionlessly. "What's the matter?" After the traffic police saluted, he said, "Sir, you can't park here. Please drive away quickly." "Okay." Holly replied indifferently. The car sped on the road at the fastest speed and finally stopped in front of a luxurious villa. Holly pulled Shui Ruian out of the passenger seat and strode toward the villa. He entered a string of passwords at the entrance and the door opened automatically. When they entered the villa, they saw that it was decorated in the style of a European palace. It was simple and elegant, exuding a strong sense of luxury. After entering, he pressed her against the wall and kissed her forcefully on the lips, conquering her. Flames burst out and burned the two of them. He tore the suit jacket off her shoulders and threw it on the ground. His right hand touched her back and pulled down the zipper. She also reached out to unbutton his shirt. Just as she unbuttoned one button, he suddenly grabbed the lapel with both hands and took off his shirt. The clean and tidy living room was in a mess in an instant. His shirt was thrown at the door, her skirt was thrown on the sofa, his pants were thrown at the corner of the stairs, and her underwear was thrown in the corridor leading to the bedroom. By the time he placed her on the large, palatial bed, they were already facing each other naked, with no cover at all. He didn't give her any chance to breathe and penetrated her fiercely. She grabbed his arm tightly and moved up and down with his movements. He rubbed, teased, and tortured her constantly, but he just didn't let her be satisfied. She stared at him with wet eyes and bit her red lips to express her dissatisfaction. His lips curled up into a sinister smile. "Baby, I thought you were still thinking about him." She whimpered. "Of course not. My body and mind are all yours now." He bit her neck and panted heavily. "Prove it to me." "I love you." She hugged him tightly and whispered in his ear. Her slender legs wrapped around his lean back. He growled and his movements became more and more intense. Finally, he led her to the peak. Lying in his arms, she closed her eyes and panted. Her heart was beating so fast that it almost jumped out of her chest. Only she knew that at the moment when they were walking in the clouds, she had treated him as someone else's substitute. Add Songshu 566. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.